Ch26, back to the Jade Palace. I just finished the storyline of Dying Light 1 and I think I just had a post-game depression. I wanna hear Jade's voice again though, her death really affected me. Dash underscore 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 underscore. As soon as their lips touched, Tigress's eyes widened in surprise. She was just mesmerized by Jin's eyes and didn't expect to be kissed by him. This feeling, it doesn't feel bad. Slowly closing her eyes, Tigress decided to savor this feeling lest she might have missed out such feeling. Meanwhile, this wasn't the first time Jin kissed someone. As a rising actor, Jin naturally has a few scenes where he has to kiss someone, so he's not unfamiliar to kissing. However, none of those kisses are romantic like this. I hope I'm not doing bad. Jin thought to himself as he decided to open his eyes, wanting to see Tigress's reaction. The moment he did, he saw her closing her eyes, as if she was asleep. At least, that's what he thought when Tigress suddenly reciprocated the kiss and pecked his lips repeatedly. With one finally smooch, Tigress blushed a bit before facing the wall again, making Jin face her back. "Good night," she said before relaxing her muscles so she could sleep. However, Jin could hear her loud breathing, which means she's still awake and probably nervous or excited. Jin isn't an expert in reading someone's breathing so he can't determine exactly what she's feeling. "Good night to you too, my little kitty." Jin then smiled as he also relaxed himself. However, through the entire night, he couldn't get an ounce of sleep. So, the morning rised and Jin was still wide awake. He doesn't know what's happening to him but his body feels energetic and excited ever since he kissed Tigress. I wish I could turn back time and kiss her again. A/N, for those who has been affected by the dark side of the web novel. This is what love really feels like, not some bullshit where you meet and fuck each other then finally fall in love. I'm writing the romance part just to see if I have some talent in writing romance genre. Outside the tower where they were offered to sleep, Jin was the first one to get out as Tigress was still washing her face by the small pond in the bathroom. Who would have thought people in this era used pond as a way to wash themselves? That's why history is sometimes exciting. There would always be things in the past that you'd never expect to exist. Why do I feel like I've gotten stronger after healing myself from the cannonball? Could I have really awakened my angel bloodline? If so, where's my wings? Thinking of this, Jin tried to look at his back but failed to do so. I'll see if I could bring it out. The next moment, Jin's face scrunched up as if he's taking the biggest shit of his entire life. Nope. I can't bring it out, so I haven't awakened it yet. Jin said inside his mind, popping the pee. Hey, Jin. You're finally awake. We were just waiting for you. Where's Tigress? Viper slithered herself to approach him as she greeted. She's still inside, don't worry she'll go out soon. Speak of the devil, as soon as he finished his sentence, Tigress finally walked outside the tower, maintaining her serious face. As soon as their eyes made contact, Tigress quickly looked away and fastened her pace. I'm smelling something. Viper moved her eyebrow up and down as she flashed a knowing smile to Jin. Ignoring her, Jin started walking as Viper whispered Killjoy behind him. Approaching the rest of the team, Jin could see the eye bags underneath the eyes of Mantis and Poe. What's with you guys? You didn't get enough sleep? Jin asked in confusion. Ask Monkey. Mantis answered with a monotone voice as if he had just witnessed the entire Vietnam War. Well, it was my first time sleeping with a girl, so I kinda stayed awake through the entire night. Poe embarrassingly whispered as if not wanting for Viper to hear him. I understand you, Poe. I really do. Jin looked at him in the eyes with pity, as if he was looking at a fellow comrade. Although weirded out, Poe still nodded his head for gratitude. Looks like everyone is here. Good, let us go back to the Jade Palace. Master Rhino has prepared us an escort ship to go back home. Master Shifu walked towards them and said. A few days has passed, Jin and the gang are finally back in the Jade Palace. Meanwhile, Poe immediately went back to his shop, to greet his dad and spend some time with him. In the meantime, Jin got back to his room and can't help but feel like the room has gotten smaller to him. I should ask Master Shifu to give me a bigger room. Making a note to himself. The first thing he did after getting back was to obviously check on his template percentage. Jin Kazama template, 68%. As soon as his eyes landed on the number, he can't help but widen his eyes in surprise. He didn't expect for the percentage to rise this fast. He knows how hard it is to raise the percentage, considering that the higher the percentage the harder it is to increase. No wonder I felt stronger than never. But, is Jin really this strong? Guessing from my strength, I could tell right away that if I faced Tai Lung again in my current percentage, I could one-shot him easily. Is Jin really the devil I saw in the character selection? Tisk, I should have visited the arcade more often. Scratching his head in annoyance, Jin decided to put these thoughts on the back of his head for now. I should probably visit Po first, I'm kinda hungry. After washing himself in the river, Jin then proceeded to go down the stairs of the Jade Palace. Back then I used to be scared of stairs. Well, look at me now, challenging the god of stairs. Jin joked to himself as he chuckled. While Jin was walking down on the stairs, he didn't notice the eyes staring at his back. The stair belongs to a white-haired man that looks similar to a human except for the weird white eyes. So, you're the one who's been playing around in my world. The man muttered as a bunch of huddled leaves flew past him, covering him for a second, and when the leaves dispersed, he vanished. Meanwhile, Jin was just about to head to Mr. Ping's noodle shop when he was suddenly met face to face with the man who has been staring at him earlier. Mortal! Do you know the consequences of trespassing on a god's universe and even interfering with the destiny? Either you go back to where you came from or face the consequence. The white-haired man said while squinting his eyes. Who are you? Jin tilted his head in confusion as the white-haired man replied. I'm the one asking the questions here, boy. Go back to your world or face the consequence. The man yelled at him as the weather suddenly changed and turned into a stormy one. Meanwhile, in the cave, Master Shifu was meditating when he suddenly saw the sudden change of weather. This isn't natural. It isn't supposed to rain today. Having a bad premonition in his heart, Master Shifu muttered to himself and quickly left. Back to Jin, he's currently panicking a little bit inside his mind as he could finally have a rough guess on who the man in front of him is. Oh God! He's the god of this world that God told me to watch over, right? Did I apply as a nanny of gods or what? Crying inside his mind, Jin maintained a calm smile on the outside. God! If you're watching over me, can you tell your son to fuck off? I'm not supposed to meet the hidden boss right at the middle. He's supposed to appear after grinding and becoming strong. Praying inside his mind, Jin hoped that his prayer would be answered by God. As if the heavens were smiling upon him, God spoke inside his mind. He's Callias, my son. You don't have to worry, he's in his avatar, so he's not using his entire strength. Probably just a portion. And besides, each of my children have unique traits and hobbies. You might like Callias's hobby. As soon as God informed him about Callias, he never spoke again, no matter how many times Jin tries to call out to him. I'm fucked. Thankfully, it's just his avatar. I should have a chance. As soon as Jin finished his monologue, the white-haired man thought of him as a stubborn and disobey him, so he sighed and uttered. I see. So you have chosen death. Shaking his head, Callias raised his head to stare at him before declaring. Prepare for the consequence. Today, you will beat me in battle. Hearing the declaration, Jin's body tensed up. Here it is. Wish me luck. Drinking battle. Suddenly, Callias continued, shocking Jin, including the newly arrived Master Shifu the Furious Six. Drinking battle? What the fuck is wrong with this guy? Jin's face twitched a bit and almost wanted to punch Callias in the face, but resisted the urge. Now I know why God said that each of his children have unique traits and habits. This must be Callias's unique trait, which is challenge offenders in a drinking battle. Thank God it's not fight to death battle. Jin said to himself while wiping off his sweat. Thankfully, it's a drinking battle, as Jin might not look that much, but he's quite the person who has a very high tolerance in alcohol. So, there's chance of him winning the battle. Okay. I accept your challenge. When do we begin? Jin confidently answered before asking back a question. Now. Callias replied with an arrogant smirk. Dash underscore 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 underscore. Haha, you thought there was a lemon scene, didn't you? Mwahaha. CH27, I won, but at what cost? Chug. 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 Surrounded by almost the entire citizens of the Valley of Peace, Jin and Callias were hazily staring at each other as the both of them has one glass in their hands. A large gourd can be seen standing beside them. Why you shall hick, W win. I am the god of wine. Drunk already, Callias stood up as he gulped down the alcohol on his glass. A mother and son pig was just watching with excitement, when they saw Callias's fully naked body standing up, forcing the mother to close the eyes of her son. Oh! Almost everyone quickly tried to look away or close their eyes while some just watched Callias's thing dangling in front of them. Ah, my eyes! One of them yelled in surprise. Mama! A short but fat noodle. A child rabbit pointed at Callias's bottom. Kahak! Jin, who was already drunk and was about to pass out, suddenly turned sober as he stared in shock. Fuck! I need to rinse my eyes after this. Jin cursed inside his mind as he made a mental note to himself. But first, he has to win this battle so he could go back to his normal life. Gulp! Drinking the alcohol from his glass, Jin then stood up and stared at Callias's eyes. Thanks to the nightmare he saw earlier, Jin, who was previously drunk, almost on the verge of passing out, turned sober. Should I feel grateful to him for making me sober or not? Oh! The gourd has been emptied and right now, we'll see who will pass out first. The last man standing will be the winner. Come on, everyone! Cheer for our dragon warrior! For some unknown reason, Po turned into a commentator, hyping up the drinking contest. A few seconds has passed, both of them were still standing. However, Callias was blinking profusely while his body were moving sideways. Here it is! Everyone's eyes were on Callias as they watched him slowly close his eyes, and soon, he fell forward, planting his face on the table. Thud! Yah! The dragon warrior has emerged victorious. Po clapped his hands and jumped around in excitement as he announced, making everyone yell to the top of their lungs and chant his name. Jin! 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 X69. Raising his arms in the air, Jin smiled in triumph as the alcohol finally kicked in once again and he was about to pass out and fall backwards. Just when everyone was about to attempt to catch him, someone already did. You're drunk. Catching him, Tigress said to him as Jin smiled wryly. It's worth it, I guess? Being catched by my little kitty. But what I saw earlier will never be erased from my mind. Jin muttered as he continued before passing out. I won, but at what cost? While everyone was busy chanting Jin's name, Callias, who unconscious, slowly disappeared after a bunch of leaves once again flew past him. No one saw him, not even Master Shifu, as he was thinking on how to punish Jin for drinking alcohol and even competing with someone for it. As their teacher, Master Shifu strictly forbids them to get drunk as it would cause them to lose focus, which would make their guard down and allow their enemies to strike them while they're drunk. Sigh. Only this time, I'll allow it. Shaking his head, Master Shifu then walked away, going back to his meditation. After the cheering has concluded, everyone started going back to their usual lives. However, one thing for sure. They would never forget this moment and would probably even spread it outside the valley. Meanwhile, Jin was carried back to the Jade Palace by Tigress, who, despite was annoyed at Jin getting himself drunk, was smiling in delight as deep down, she was convinced that even Jin, who she thought was almost perfect in every aspect, finally realized that he's just like everyone else, having fun and living his life like a normal person. Thinking of Jin, Tigress can't help but remember about what they did during their stay in Gongmen City. Although they only kissed at that time and nothing else happened, Tigress felt like it was the best moment in her life. Is this what they call love? It makes my heart warm. Tigress said to herself as they finally arrived at Jin's room before laying him down on his bed. Tigress was about to leave when Jin suddenly grabbed her hand and pulled him towards him. Because of that, both Tigress and Jin were laying on the bed, with Jin spooning Tigress under his arms. Warm. Jin muttered in his sleep as Tigress was in a state of shock at first and tried to get out of Jin's embrace. However, Jin, who was dreaming of hugging a large teddy bear in his sleep, tightened his hug. Having no use, Tigress finally stopped resisting and just rested along with Jin, as she buried her head on Jin's hard chest. Looks like he's finally enjoying his life. Back in the white space, God, who has been watching Jin, smiled in contentment as Callias surprisingly appeared behind him. Seriously, why did you even choose my world as his first world? Can't you just choose that bitch's world? Callias complained and cursed as God laughed. Your world is best suited for someone like him. If I choose the other world, he might not be as comfortable as he is now. God explained. I see. I'm going now. I'll have to resume my pie show game with Oogway. Callias said before disappearing, leaving God alone again. A/N, now that I think of it. I wonder how cool it would be if Oagway and Uncle Iroh were to meet and have a talk. Just imagining it gives me goosebumps, and I'm sure as hell they could make even the most evil person in world turn good. As the night settles in, everyone finally slept, making Jin skip a whole day of training. Opening his eyes, Jin realized that he's back to his room in the moonlight and lighting up the room. Feeling a warm thing on his chest, Jin looked down and saw Tigress sleeping with her arms around him, embracing him completely. I remember passing out earlier, did she bring me here? Thinking of this, Jin continued staring at Tigress's sleeping face. As he does, he remembers when they first met. Her cold and indifferent face back then was so different than the face she makes now. She's so cute that I want to kiss her right now, Jin said to himself before trying to remove her arms from his body. However, she didn't budge, and he's afraid if he forced it, it would wake her up, so he decided to stay like this in the meantime, until she removes it herself or he falls asleep again. Caressing her head, Jin noticed that her fur was a bit soft, like a newly shampooed hair. I thought her fur would be a bit crude or tough. I didn't expect for it to be silky soft. Jin muttered under his breath as he closed his eyes and decided to sleep again. The moment Jin closed his eyes and slept, Tigress's eyes opened, which glows a bit due to the dark surrounding. Looking at Jin's sleeping face, she decided to go back to sleep and buried her face more on his chest. The next morning, the sunlight outside the window flashes on Tigress's sleeping face, forcing her to wake up after feeling the heat in her face. Opening her eyes, she realized that she's alone in the room, without Jin's presence. He must have gotten up first. I should leave here before Monkey or Viper sees me walk out of his room and make a rumor. Speaking inside her mind, Tigress fixed the bed first before sneakily leaving the room. She then went back to her room and waited for Master Shifu to wake them up. This is the reason why she left Jin's room, as she knew that all of them have to walk out of their rooms the moment Master Shifu calls them outside. As for Jin, she doesn't where he went, but she's not that worried about him. Maybe he's training outside or was called by Master Shifu. Speaking of Jin, he's currently jogging outside, doing his morning routine. Following him was Po, who finally woke up early by himself, without needing for Jin to wake him up in the morning. It's already a good progress for him, as he's disciplining himself properly. 1 kilometer left to go, Po. Move those legs of yours. Encouraging Po, who was breathing heavily as his legs continued to move, Jin patted his shoulders. Oh huff, okay. Out of breath, Po answered. A few minutes later, the jogging session was finally done. Po and Jin started drinking by the clear river. Gulp, X10. Unlike Jin, who only drank a couple of gulps, Po was drinking madly as if he hasn't drank water for a whole year. Lying on the ground, Po breathed in relief. Po, it's time for you to learn a technique of mine. As your master, it is only natural for me to teach you a thing or two. As soon as Jin finished his sentence, the fatigue that is visible on Po's face suddenly disappeared and replaced by an excited expression. Really? Yes. Let's go. Po jumped around in excitement, as Jin chuckled at his reaction. Alright, watch carefully, Po. This is a technique I call Cliffhanger Kun. Cliffhanger Kun is back. My presence is necessary in order to leave you all hanging. Muahahaha. Dash underscore 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 underscore. Ch28, Demon's Paw. I just started playing Skyrim today, lol. Hopefully, it is as good as what other people says. Dash underscore 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 underscore. I call this technique, Demon's Paw. Jin said, making Po's eyes glow in excitement. Are you ready to learn, Po? Jin proudly raised his head and asked. Why yes. Po stuttered as he felt like Jin was basked in light, further enhancing his image to Po. Then I am your master. Jin loudly declared, almost making Po tear up. Master. Ooh, sniff. Po wiped the tears that threatened to fall on his face. Don't cry. Jin said before throwing his handkerchief to Po, who catched it and blew his nose out. Seeing that Po tried to give it back to him, Jin immediately refused him and said. You can keep it. Just take it as a token of being my first student. Jin smiled and said, he could see some snots on the handkerchief, there's no way he'll be taking it back with him. Thanks. Po scratched his head, as he placed the handkerchief to his small pocket. He'll surely place it as a display in his room and pray to it every day. Good. Now I want you to watch closely, okay? I would not repeat it again. Jin strictly ordered as Po opened his eyes wide, making sure that he catches everything Jin will show him. Nodding his head in satisfaction, Jin assumed his Kazama-style stance as a large tree is in front of him. There's a small distance between him and the tree, allowing him to step forward quickly while bending his upper body slightly forward. His left leg were stepped forward than the other. His right arm is already cocked back and under just a second, his arm blurred and connected in the middle of the tree. Boom! A large booming sound occurs as the entire tree was uprooted from its soil and flew a few meters away, colliding with several more trees before coming into halt. Meanwhile, Po just stared at this with his mouth open. In his mind, that technique is so cool that he could finally show off in front of his fellow Valley of Peace citizens and also to his dad. Before you learn that, I'll teach you my Kazama-style stance first, so you could execute the Demon's Paw technique. A/N, Demon's Paw is actually Jin's technique in the Tekken series, so if you're curious on what it looks like, you can search it up on Google. Po nodded his head seriously stood up as he tries to imitate Jin's Kazama-style stance. There were some fee errors on his side which was fixed by Jin. For the next few hours, Po finally managed to grasp the technique, however there would be some instances where he would break his knuckles or walk in a wrong foot and tripped himself. However, despite all these hurdles, Po kept on insisting in mastering the technique. Jin could only admire his courage and determination, which is something he lacked because of relying on his template. Maybe I should learn more harder techniques, something that even Jin Kazama himself would be having trouble. Thinking this to himself, Jin knew that in his current life, relying on his template system isn't bad. After all, there's a reason why he has it and only an idiot would think of not using it in excuse of relying too much. He has the system and he'll use it to his heart's content. As Jin was training Po, Crane landed near them and saw that Po was exhausted and his knuckles were bleeding profusely, but in his eyes, there is no pain except for determination. Jin, we have a situation in Plant Village. A bunch of thugs are harassing them as usual. Crane reported to him, making Po, who was in the state of focused, excitedly said. Finally! It's time for some action. Po raised his fist in the air. No, Po. You're staying here. You're exhausted and injured. Stay and heal yourself. Jin poured cold water in Po's head as he explained and pointed at Po's bleeding knuckles. Oh, this is nothing, haha. Po noticed his knuckles and quickly tried to hide it behind his back and step forward. However, when he did so, his ankle suddenly bent sideways, making him trip on the ground while his ankle turned swollen. Ooh, that's gotta hurt. Looks like you're staying, Po. Jin made the decision, much to Po's dejection, however he could understand Jin as he's just taking care of him, so he nodded his head and used his other feet to jump and make his way towards the infirmary. Let's go, Crane. Jin turned his head to Crane and they both nodded their heads in unison. Quick! Hurry up, we should get out of before those masters come. A large bear with a scar on the left side of his eye, ordered angrily, as the coyotes were flocking around the village, taking some of their valuables. Unfortunately for you, we have arrived. Hearing a voice not far away from them, the large bear with a scar turned to look at the source with a trembling body. Seeing the full squad of Jin and the furious six, minus Po who was in the infirmary, the large bear started trembling more intensely while pushing some of his coyote subordinates as he made a decision in his mind. I'll take whatever I could take. With my subordinates holding them off, I would surely be able to escape without any problems. Speaking in his mind, the large bear grabbed all the bags he could carry before dashing off while pushing the coyotes away from his way. Raising an eyebrow, Jin chuckled to himself. Back in my world, humans used to be scared of bears, but now, the bears are the ones scared to a human. Oh, how the tables have turned. Handle those lackeys, I'll change that bear. Giving out an order, Jin started running forward, with his eyes staying glued on the running bear. All the lackeys that were in his way were used as stepping stones for him to increase his speed. It didn't take long before Jin arrived near the bear. Surprise! Jin grinned as he patted the bear's shoulders, and when he finally got his attention to him, he waved his hand. Hee! Realizing that his fate is doomed, the bear tried to increase his pace, however due to his size, Jin would always catch up to him. Just when the bear was about to shit himself, they came across a small rabbit that seems to be doing a set of workouts. The bear's eyes gleamed in excitement as he rushed forward and tried to grab the rabbit in surprise. Jin finally realized the plan of the bear that would definitely take the rabbit as hostage. Obviously, the situation would be troublesome to him, so he hastened his pace and tried to stop the bear. However, it was already too late as the bear was on the verge of grabbing the rabbit, who finally realized that a large bear has bad intentions to him. Much to the bear and Jin's surprise, the rabbit suddenly jumped backward in a quick manner. The rabbit's speed was so fast that it turned into a blur. Fast. Is he also a master? Jin thought to himself. Inside his heart, he was glad that the rabbit managed to avoid the bear's grab. Deciding to finish the bear before he could cause more trouble for him, Jin grabbed the bear's back head and pushed him with his strong force, plummeting the bear's face on the ground, finally finishing the bear. Meanwhile, the rabbit arrived in front of Jin and excitedly introduced himself. You must be the dragon warrior. Thank you for saving me. My name is Fluff. He's a child. How did he even dodge the bear earlier? I didn't expect rabbits to be these fast, though. Jin thought to himself before nodding his head at Fluff. You're welcome, Fluff. By the way, what are you doing here alone in the forests? Children like you should be with other kids their age. Where's you parents? Jin asked, while wrapping a rope on the large bear. I'm training. I want to be a kung fu master and join the Furious Six and save innocent people. Fluff said with an innocent but excited expression. As for my parents? I don't have any parents. I was told that I was abandoned the moment I was born. Fluff then scratched his head and said. If someone were to hear him, they'd think of him as poor orphan and take pity on him. However, from Fluff's expression, Jin could tell that Fluff doesn't have any idea what the role of parents are and their importance to a child. I see. Come with me, Fluff. I'll introduce you to my friends. Jin carried the large bear over his shoulder under the amazed eyes of Fluff before offering his hand for Fluff to take. Okay. He answered. As soon as they got back in the village, Jin could see that the chaos has already subsided and the coyotes were laying on the ground while some are tied in ropes. Jin also saw Tigress and the Furious Six. Guys, I'm back. Jin greeted them while dropping the large bear's body on the ground. You got him. But, who's that? Monkey stared at the large bear before his eyes darted towards Fluff and asked out loud, causing the rest of the Furious Six to also notice Fluff and ask the same question. This little pal here is Fluff. You can say he kinda helped me in catching the bear. Jin said, giving a wink at Fluff, who was nervously but excitedly staring at the Furious Five. Hi. I am Fluff. Fluff stepped forward and introduced himself. Hey, he kinds reminds me of someone. Monkey said while seemingly thinking about something. Po. He reminds me of Po. Mantis answered. Dash underscore 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 underscore. CH29, a second student. I can't believe you guys are telling me an idiot just because I said that Jin doesn't have chi. Well, let me enlighten you. First of all, chi would obviously be unlocked after reaching a certain percentage. Don't forget that this is a template system fanfic. And also, yes, I looked at Jin Kazama's wiki page and I know that he has chi, but obviously, our main character doesn't know that chi is something that Jin uses like his lightning in the Tekken series. So, yes. Jin doesn't have chi yet. Yes, I said yet because he hasn't achieved a certain percentage yet to unlock. Seriously, this is the reason why most authors dropped their works because of their readers not minding their own words. Yes, you're free to judge the author's work, but do it in a way that will not offend or hurt them. Dash underscore 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 underscore. After sending the unfortunate bear to the prison where thugs like him are usually sent to, Jin and the Furious Six were about to go back to the Jade Palace when an unusual someone started following them. Fluff? What's wrong? Jin asked the small bunny. I want to learn Kung Fu. I will go with you guys. Fluff excitedly said while carrying a large backpack on his back. What? Monkey was flabbergasted and so is the rest. No, you're staying here. Kung Fu is not for someone like you. You're still a child, go home. Tigress sternly said while crossing her arms under her breast. Sniff. As soon as Tigress finished what she was saying, Fluff started sniffing and tears gathered on his eyes. Don't be harsh, my little kitty. So what if the kid wants to learn Kung Fu? Let him. Kung Fu was made for everyone to learn, not just for special people like us. Come with us, Fluff. I'll see if you have the guts and determination to become a Kung Fu master. Jin interfered after seeing Fluff almost on the verge of breaking down. Really? Wiping the tears away, Fluff got his excitement back. Yes. Now, your first training is to keep up with us. If you can't do such simple thing, then you don't have the right to be trained by me. Jin stated as Fluff quickly nodded his head. Seeing that, Jin and the rest finally resumed their journey, followed by a small bunny that seems to have an inexhaustible stamina. He has a great stamina for a child. I commend him for that. Viper said as she looked back at Fluff, who was staring at everything in amazement, as if it was his first time to see the place outside his village. Well, rabbits are long known for their incredible stamina. How do you think they keep multiplying? From what I remember, rabbits have the most population in the entire China. Mantis said, informing them of his knowledge. While they were busy talking to each other, Jin and Tigress were walking side by side as she was whispering to Jin. Are you sure about this? Won't Master Shifu punish you for this? She whispered worriedly. I'm glad you're worried about me, but you don't have to worry. I'm sure Master Shifu won't mind. After all, the more Kung Fu masters there are, the better. Jin shrugged his shoulders and replied. Tigress turned quiet after that and didn't speak anymore through the rest of the journey. Though, she still kept walking with Jin, side by side. First Po and now him? Jin, picking your students is not the same as plucking flowers in the yard randomly, it takes time and you must ensure that they both have the talent and dedication to learn, and the most important is to have a kind heart. I don't want the matter of Tai Lung to happen to you. After reporting to Master Shifu about his new student, Jin didn't expect to be lectured by him and receive advice. Worry not, Master. Fluff met all of the requirements that you just mentioned. The only thing that's left is to determine his talent. However, I'm sure talent isn't the one that determines whether someone have the rights to learn Kung Fu, right? Jin replied. Good. And yes, talent is just part of the requirement but not mandatory. The most important factor is to have the determination and kind heart. Since you have deemed him worthy, then it is only natural for me to not stop you from making the decision. Master Shifu said to him before going back to meditation. After Jin left, he proceeded to go back to the training hall where he met Mantis and Monkey having a small spar. Still as slow as ever, Monkey. What would great strength and flexibility do if you can't hit your opponent? Mantis mocked, as he was dodging all of Monkey's strikes and sometimes even lying on the ground, further insulting Monkey's ego. Well, you're still as small as ever. What would your great speed do if you can't reach me once while touching the ground? Monkey shot back. Too bad for you, I'm already immune to that kind of insult. You have any other news ones? Mantis chuckled and taunted. Just when Monkey was thinking about what he could use to call him names, Jin decided to interfere before Monkey and Mantis might kill each other if they went beyond. Alright, you both knock it off. How about fighting me next? It's been a while since I fought seriously. Jin grinned as he taunted them but challenging them with a gesture of his hand. Come and get me. Glancing at each other, Monkey and Mantis talked through their eyes before coming up to a decision. I'll show you that in the world of Kung Fu, speed defines the winner. Mantis confidently said. A/N, guess where I got that quote from? I'm getting excited. Monkey excitedly said while assuming his monkey-style stance. Seeing that they're ready, Jin took a coin out of his pocket and said. The moment this lands in the ground, the battle will begin, understood? Seeing them nod, Jin flicked the coin in the air as he quickly went on his Kazama-style stance. Everyone's eyes were on the flipping coin that slowly loses its momentum in the air and started falling down on the ground, thanks to gravity. Cling! The moment the coin landed on the ground, Mantis was the first one to move as he's the fastest among them. Swoosh! Aiming at Jin's vitals, Mantis intends to take down Jin by striking his nerves, making him lose control over his limbs. Ha! Smiling in victory, Mantis thought that he finally got Jin when he suddenly saw how Jin sidestepped, allowing him to pass by him. As Mantis was in midair, it is impossible for him to change his position, so the moment he saw Jin's kick heading towards him, he knew that he's done for. Don't worry, Mantis. I got you. Just right in time, Monkey arrived to intercept Mantis as Monkey slid on the ground and used his tail to wrap around Jin's kicking leg. Seeing that the leg that was supposed to kick him had halted, Mantis sighed in relief and landed on the ground safely. He didn't expect for Jin to react that fast. Meanwhile, Jin noticed how Mantis got away thanks to Monkey, so he decided to take down Monkey first. Pulling his leg back down on the ground, forced Monkey release his tail from his leg, which gave Jin enough time to deliver a devastating punch towards Monkey's abdomen. Oh no! Monkey knew it's too late for him to react, and even if he did, his speed is not that fast for him to evade Jin's punch. So he could only cross his arms and hope for the best for him. Boom! Unfortunately, Jin's combined strength and technique made his lunge 10 times more stronger than his full strength. So, Monkey was basically thrown away and collided with the wall. Monkey! Mantis worriedly tried to rush towards Monkey to check on him, however would Jin just allow him to do that? This is a fight, and in a fight you don't turn your back on enemies. Stomping on the ground similar to what Tigress did, Jin's stomp causes a huge airwave on the ground that caused Mantis to lose his speed and also his balance. Ooh! Thrown away a little, Mantis thankfully managed to stop himself from being blasted completely. However, Jin isn't the type to give his enemies time to breath, so the moment he caused that airwave, his body was already moving and arrived in front of Mantis. Having no time to defend himself, Jin's kick quickly collided with Mantis's small body. Mantis might be the fastest in the Furious Five, however that leaves his durability weaker than the others. Bam! Of course, this is only a spar, so Jin slightly tuned down his strength as to not kill Mantis accidentally, however despite holding back a bit, Mantis was still vulnerable to his kick, so he was blasted away with blood coming out of his lips. Shit! Realizing what he has done, Jin immediately rushed over to Mantis to check up on him. Thankfully, his vitals are fine and he's just unconscious. Hoo! You had me worried there for a second. Jin wiped off his sweat that had formed from the fight and the nervousness. Ha ha! Suddenly, Monkey emerged from behind with a bow staff in his hand. Surprised with the suddenly arrival of Monkey, Jin was too late to react and could only use his forearms to defend himself. Bam! Skidding on the ground, Jin's forearms reddened due to the force. Shit, he hits like the fucking tank from L4D. Jin said to Skmelf as he shook his arms to fade the pain away. Landing on the ground, Monkey was now serious while holding his bow staff behind him while squatting a little. Looks like he's serious now. I wonder how strong he really is. The movies didn't show that much of the Furious Five and their true strengths. While he was thinking to himself, Monkey decided to strike first. Throwing the bow staff in a spinning manner, Jin bent his back backward, making the bow staff spin past away from him, when Monkey suddenly jumped and arrived near the bow staff. Finally getting hold of his bow staff, Monkey quickly whirled it around his body while still in midair before slamming it towards Jin, who was still bending his back. Fuck! Quickly picking himself up, Jin tried to intercept Monkey's upcoming strike when Mantis surprisingly came up behind him and struck the nerves on his left leg before rushing to hold the strike the other one. Do it, Monkey! Mantis yelled. Monkey's technique, Whirlwind Strike. Yelling the technique's name, Monkey brought his bow staff down towards Jin. Looking at this in shock, Jin's body suddenly released slight sparks of red lightning before. Boom! CH-30, unlocking chi. I think I just heard it in the training hall. Viper slithered quickly followed by Tigress and Crane. As they arrived at the entrance, they saw Master Shifu peeping inside while his hands were behind his back. Master! They bowed their heads in respect upon seeing him. It is incredible. Jin has unlocked his chi through battle. Master Shifu muttered as he watched in shock inside the training hall. Curious, the three of them also looked inside and what they saw shocked them. Jin was standing alone in the middle of the training hall, scorched marks can be seen everywhere around him while Monkey and Mantis were lying on the ground with scorched marks also in their bodies, their body were also shaking involuntarily due to the electric shock. What happened here? Tigress questions as he was mesmerized by the red lightning arcs that kept sparking around Jin. Hearing her, Jin, who was zoning out a bit, turned his head to her and noticed that she's not alone. Trying to make an excuse, Jin seemed to find nothing plausible. You have unlocked chi, Jin. Something that took me decades just to unlock and I haven't even mastered it yet. Master Shifu said in excitement. Master. What is chi? Tigress asked with a hint of envy in her voice. Wake those two up and follow me. Especially you, Jin. Master Shifu said while pointing his cane at the unconscious Mantis and Monkey before leaving. Jin shook his head to remove his daze before proceeding to follow Master Shifu along with Tigress while Crane and Viper tried to wake Monkey and Mantis. In the hallway of the Jade Palace, where the Dragon Scroll used to reside, Master Shifu seems to be looking for something across the bunch of scrolls that are neatly managed. Chi. Grabbing another scroll, Master Shifu's face beamed up as if he has found what he was looking for. Here it is. Qi is the energy that flows through all living things. It is present in everyone's body but only a few can harness it. So far, I only know Master Oogway and me, capable of harnessing it. And now the third one is you, Jin. Master Shifu said while handing the scroll to Jin. Removing the cap, Jin took out the scroll outside of its shell and proceeded to open it. Written in the scroll are the techniques, guides and its long history. There are only 2 techniques written in the scroll, which is to give and to harness. To give is the technique to give your qi to others, healing them and giving them life, while to harness is the technique that allows one to harness their qi to do several things. However, none of those things are written in the scroll. A/N, during the battle of Oogway and Kai, I noticed that Oogway can write something in midair using his cane that looks similar to qi due to its color. So, I presumed that qi can not only be used for healing only but also have other purposes, such as flying and enhancing his strength and many more. Perhaps you should call Po here. Jin said after he finished reading the scroll. Why? Viper asked. Jin then proceeded to show them the scroll, where it shows 11 pandas teaching Master Oogway about qi. Fascinating. I didn't expect Po's kind to be the masters of qi. Master Shifu uttered in fascination. Maybe he can use qi. Monkey, who had just woken up, heard their conversation, so he asked. No. I don't think so. Though, he has the right to know about this, though. Jin said before handing the scroll to Viper. Give this to Po. Jin said before walking out. Where are you going? Tigress asked while catching up to him. I'll train my qi. Since I managed to harness it, then perhaps I could train it and manipulate it to a certain extent. Jin answered. I'll come with you, I also want to learn qi. Tigress said with determination in her eyes. She just discovered qi today, and seeing that only Master Shifu, Master Oogway and Jin are capable of using it, then she wanted to be the 4th one. Well, you're welcome to try. Though, don't be discouraged if you can't harness it. For the next few days, Jin started training his qi, which is a bit weird and different as his qi takes a form of lightning instead of the common yellow-colored energy. Jin doesn't know the reason for this, but he just blamed it on Jin's devil bloodline, which he is now sure that Jin surely is the devil in the Tekken character selection. Meanwhile, Tigress's training bore no results, as no matter what she did, she seems to be having trouble to at least feel it on her body. She was training with the technique of doing a set of movements before ending with both of palms raising forward. However, despite doing everything perfectly, nothing was happening until one day, Tigress was training as usual, and when she finished the set of movements, a small spark of yellow appeared on her paws that soon faded away instantly. However, all of this was caught by Tigress's eyes, who excitedly ran to find Jin, so she could tell him about it. However, as she arrived at Jin's usual spot, she found no sign of him, though her sharp nose could smell his traces, so she followed his smell until she was led to the waterfalls. She suddenly stopped in shock as blush crept up into her face after seeing Jin taking a bath by the river without wearing anything on his body. Splash! Washing his hair, Jin pulled his to the back of his head just in time to see Tigress staring at him in shock with a reddened face. Tigress? Oh, I see. Seeing Tigress's blushing face, Jin was confused at first before realizing why she's blushing. With a mischievous grin, Jin splashed the water towards Tigress, showering her entire body. Oops! Looks like you're wet, how about joining me? Still maintaining his mischievous grin, Jin slowly approached Tigress with his body still under the water. Meanwhile, Tigress quickly looked at herself and seeing her wet clothes that clings to her skin, showcasing her abdominal muscles, especially her breast. Wait, that wasn't my intention. Realizing that Tigress's nude body was almost showing due to her wet clothes, Jin also blushed slightly before wiping off the blood that trickled down on his nose. I'm not into furry, but damn. Glaring at Jin, Tigress tried to hide her blush away as she gritted her teeth. Don't look. Upon Tigress's instruction, Jin did as she told him and looked away. He's might be a bit of a pervert but not a degenerate person who sees women as some kind of thing or trophy. Seeing that Jin has finally looked away, Tigress gulped her saliva before slowly undressing her clothes, though from time to time, she kept on checking Jin before she was finally fully undressed. After submerging her body in the water, there was a hint of disappointment in her eyes, which for some unknown reason. Okay. It's fine now. Tigress said as Jin finally looked back at Tigress, straight looking at her in the eye. His eyes not even darting anywhere other than her eyes. Is he mocking me for not looking at it? Is it small? I heard men like it big. Wait, what was I thinking? At first, Tigress frowned at Jin's action, and when she suddenly realized what she was thinking, she blushed once again. Meanwhile, Jin thinking was different from expected. Alright, I'm looking straight into her eyes, that means I'm respecting her, right? This should give me a few points from her side. I'm such a gentleman. Speaking to his mind, Jin nodded his head in satisfaction. The next few minutes was a bit awkward as neither of them either moved or removed their eyes away from each other. It may seem like they're on guard against each other, however that wasn't their current intention. Jin was looking at Tigress's eyes so she will know that he's a gentleman instead of a pervert. While Tigress was staring at Jin, waiting for him to make a move on her. Why is she staring at me? Do I look bad when I'm wet? Jin thought to himself. Why is he taking so long? He's supposed to make a move on me by now, right? Was our kiss that night meant nothing? Disappointed, Tigress turned her back against Jin, preparing to leave the river. She's leaving. Did I perhaps do something wrong? Is she waiting for me to make a move? But what if she didn't? Though does it matter now? We kissed that night in Gongmen City, I'm sure that means something between us. Fuck it, let's risk again. Under just a second, Jin finally realized his mistake and proceeded to catch up to Tigress before she could leave. With a heavy face, Tigress was about to leave when her hand was suddenly grabbed by Jin, forcing her to turn around and face him. What are you doing? Shocked, Tigress was about to question him when she suddenly felt her lips being conquered by him. Chew. Softly enveloping her lips, Jin slowly tried to use his tongue to invade her mouth, which was hard at first as she was resisting a bit. However, as time passed, Tigress slowly let him inside as her arms unconsciously found themselves hugging him, while pressing her medium breasts against his chest. Jin then slowly lowered his hand under the water, cupping her breasts slightly. Tigress squirmed a bit at the sudden touch as this was the first time someone else other than herself has touched her breast. Ch 30.5, Making Out Lemon. HNN. Feeling Jin's touch on her breast, Tigress can't help but moan under their kiss. Hearing her moan, Jin's cock slightly trembled as its size slowly increased. Thankfully, the water levels were covering their body, so Tigress didn't see what was going on inside the water. However, feeling it was a different thing, as Tigress could feel something touching her abdomen. However, she was too busy with the kiss to bother with it, so she just let it be for now. Tigress's hands were on Jin's chest, touching the large scar on his chest that has given him a slight charm. After getting a feel of her supple breasts, Jin slowly moved his fingers to her nipples, tracing its outlines for a bit before pinching the middle. Tigress's body convulses slightly. Although her breasts weren't that big like some ecchi anime heroines, it's big enough for Jin to capture an entire breast with his palm. After getting a pinch on her nipples, Jin's hands slowly snaked downwards, touching her fully six-pack abs. Damn, her abs are more firm than mine. Jin grumbled in jealousy. In return for this jealousy, Jin bit her lips, making Tigress quiver slightly, but still tried to fight back by also biting his. Now, this became Jin's nightmare as Tigress is literally a tiger, which means her bites are stronger than his, not to mention her sharp fangs. Oh fuck! Jin winced in pain. In revenge, Jin brought both of his hands back up to Tigress's tits before pinching them as hard as the pain he felt from her bite. Nah! Releasing Jin's lips, Tigress immediately blushed and almost fell on her knees as the pleasure and pain assaulted her entire being. That's what you get for biting me, you bad kitty. Jin bent down and whispered on her ears as he smirked and pinched her nipples for the last time before lowering his hands again. Nodding his head like a servant to his master, Tigress didn't go back to kiss him. Instead, Tigress lifted her head up, showing her delicate neck to Jin, as if wanting him to do something about it. Noticing this, Jin leaned his head forward and proceeded to plant kisses on her neck. Purr. Surprisingly, Tigress started purring, which encouraged Jin to stop planting kisses and instead, started licking her neck. Although Tigress has some fur, the fur on her neck was surprisingly none, as if there weren't any. However, Jin could still tell that there is still fur on her neck. Perhaps the fur was simply too short to be noticed or felt by his tongue. Jin's head slowly went down, starting from her neck, to her chest, specifically her breasts. Grabbing the left breast with his left hand and lifting it out of the water surface, Jin directed his head towards the nipple and traced the outlines of it with his tongue first, and when he finally finished, he started sucking it like a newborn. Biting her fingers, Tigress tried her best to not release a loud moan, lest they attract some unwanted attention. Slurp. Thanks to being wet by the water, which allowed Jin to slurp her tits as if his mouth is like a vacuum. Ahem. After sucking her tits, Jin's left hand slowly went down towards her sacred place. The moment his finger touched the lips of her pussy, Tigress suddenly gripped a handful of hair from Jin as she growled in delight and pleasure. Gram. Thanks to the water, Jin easily accessed her pussy as his middle and ring finger were inserted inside, much to Tigress's intense pleasure. How come it wasn't this good when she was the one touching herself every night? Damn, it's just like scratching an itchy surface. Jin thought to himself as his fingers were not only wiggling inside but his fingers were specifically massaging the top side inside her pussy. What do they call it again? G-spot? How do I find that spot? Jin wondered to himself but still continued fingering Tigress's pussy. Unfair, she should also give me pleasure, right? Jin grumbled inside his mind as he used his other hand to grab Tigress's free hand before leading her to his hard rock member. Curious and shocked, Tigress slowly massaged Jin's cock as her paws were moving up and down. Faster! Jin whispered inside her ear before hastening his fingering on her pussy, as if he was telling her to follow his rhythm. And so she did. This time, Tigress grabbed his entire member and started beating his meat in a fast manner. Damn! This is so much better than my hand. Jin sighed in pleasure as he could feel Tigress's body shivering as if she was on the verge of coming. Something is coming, I think I'm going to pee. Tigress innocently whispered as her shivering intensified. Wait. So she doesn't know what coming is? That's hot, it's like dating an innocent lady that is still new to the wonders of the world. Jin said to himself as he felt a warm feeling on his hand, the hand that has been fingering her. After Tigress cummed, she stopped jerking his cock, just as he's about to come. So, instead of waiting for her to get her hand moving again, Jin moved up behind her before inserting his cock inside her thighs, just below her wet pussy. Flap, x69. Moving his hips in a fast manner, this was the first time Jin was feeling this, so it didn't take long for him to come. Splurt. Hugging Tigress from behind her, both of them breathed heavily due to the intense coming. That feels so good. Jin whispered as he felt his cock, which was limped inside her thighs, suddenly hardened, much to Tigress's shock. Jin scratched his cheek as Tigress blushed. Looks like both of them are ready for round 2. CH31, officially dating. After their little makeout in the river without any penetration, of course, Jin and Tigress washed themselves in silence. However, instead of washing himself, Jin was washing Tigress's body as his hands were snaking around her body, cleaning every nook and cranny of her body. Even her armpits weren't spared, much to Tigress's embarrassment. However, she didn't resist. In fact, her paws were also slowly washing Jin's front, especially his abs. A few minutes later, they finished washing each other. Jin was the first to get out of the river before wearing his outfit. Tigress soon followed up and also dressed. Unlike previously, she was no longer shy on showing her body to Jin. After all, he has already did things on her body, so there's no point in hiding them from him anymore. Let's head back, Jin said while offering his hand to her. Looking at his hand, Tigress smiled softly before holding his offered hand. Soon, they both went out of the forest with their fingers intertwined. Arriving back at the Jade Palace, they stumbled upon the Furious Six, who was chatting with each other. Seeing them, Monkey was the first one to greet them. Hey guys! Why are you holding each other's hand? Ow! Monkey was still speaking when Crane slapped the back of his head. Seriously, Monkey? How come you still didn't notice their feelings to each other? Mantis slapped his forward and shook his head in disappointment. Hey! I know about that, I was just simply asking, you know. Monkey quickly made up a reason, which none of them believed. After all, when it comes to lying, Monkey is the worst of them all. How did they know about it? Experience. Looks like I won't have to announce it to you all, hey? I guess there's only Master Shifu now. Jin scratched the back of his head as he smiled. He didn't think that their small interactions would make their friends assume that they have feelings for each other, which is not wrong as they really did. I approve. I have no right to voice any complaints when it comes to your love life. I wish you the best of luck in your upcoming journey, Jin and Tigress. Speak of the devil, just as Jin mentioned Master Shifu, he appeared beside them while holding his usual cane that he got from Master Oogway before he went off to the spirit world. Thank you, Master. Both Jin and Tigress bowed their heads in respect to Master Shifu, for receiving his blessings. Oh my gosh! I can't believe you both are going to have babies. Po reacted differently though. Bam! Po, you dummy! They just started dating, don't bring up making babies this soon. Viper smacked the back of Po's head with her tail as she scolded him. I'm sorry. I think I just misheard. Po soon apologized and tried to make up a lie. He's just as bad as Monkey. They all thought without any surprise. Anyways, I think forming bond with another is worth of a celebration. Today, all of us will celebrate in Mr. Ping's noodle shop. Get prepared everyone. Master Shifu announced with a smile. Oh. I'll go first then and tell my dad. Po excitedly said before running outside. Master Shifu then turned his attention back to Jin and Tigress. So, when will I expect the wedding? Running down the stairs, Po was humming to himself as he went down. Soon, he finished every step, making Po jump in victory. Haha! I finally beat you, stairs. Po smirked in victory as he pointed at the tall stairs, as if he was mocking it before proceeding to resume his journey back to the noodle shop. As he got there, he immediately saw his dad, preparing the noodle shop as usual. Dad! You're not gonna believe this, but the entire Jade Palace Masters will come and eat here. We should give it our best shot and make sure we cook the best noodles. Po excitedly said as Mr. Ping just looked at him lovingly. Oh, look at you, Po! Finally taking care of our little shop. Don't you worry, with you here, we'll definitely give them a surprise. Come, Po! Help me set up the ingredients. Mr. Ping said as he hugged Po. However, it turns out that Mr. Ping has also sneakily placed the apron on Po as he grabbed him inside. But Dad, I have to tell them first. No buts, you said you wanted the best noodles and I can't cook it without you. Mr. Ping replied before Po could even finish his sentence. Oh, man! Dejectedly, Po started cutting up the ingredients as Mr. Ping prepared the wok. You know, I would have thought they'd react more violently or something. I didn't expect it to be this easy. Jin said while walking side by side with Tigress. That's because our interactions are too obvious that made them come up with the conclusion. Tigress said, while raising her head with her eyes closed, feeling the strong wind smash against her face. Staring at her face, Jin can't believe that just a few minutes earlier, her face makes a lewd expression, which is very far from the calm expression she had now. Love truly work its wonders. Jin said to himself as Crane flew over the air and landed in front of them. Pose back, he said that it's time for the celebration. Crane said as Jin and Tigress nodded their heads before following him. They soon reunited with the rest and they continued their journey to Po's noodle shop. As they are walking, Po warned them for a bit. So, you guys know about my dad. He's a bit of a talkative person but he's good, don't worry. Though, he might be a bit. Just when Po was speaking, they finally arrived at their destination. However, something seems to be happening as a large crowd has gathered in front of the curtilage. Hey? What's going on, guys? Po asked in confusion with raised eyebrows as he pushed everyone in the way until he finally gets inside where he saw a big guy, bigger than him, full of dumplings inside his mouth. Someone's about to beat your dumpling eating record. A rabbit noticed him and answered while pointing at the giant guy. The crowd were cheering for him as the big guy slowly stuffed all of the dumplings inside his mouth as bowls after bowls were stacked against each other, forming several towers made of bowls, which was amazingly balancing without falling. What? Who's eating all my dumplings? I cooked them from the celebration. Po was shocked as he squeezed himself through the crowd, so he could approach the big guy. That's when he saw the big guy that looks very similar to him. 100. 101. 102. The kids were cheering for the big panda as he finally finished all the dumplings before standing up and jumping excitedly, his mouth is still full of dumplings. Meanwhile, Po stared at the big panda in shock, not expecting to see someone of his own kind. As far as he knows, Shen has massacred his kind, leaving no one by himself as the only panda. Wanhorndred 3. The big panda yelled with his mouth still full of dumplings. Ish data nu riscord? The big panda asked. Who are you? Po asked with his mouth still open from the shock. Even the Furious Six was shocked at seeing someone that looks similar to Po, but bigger than him. While Jin already knew about this as he watched the third movie of Kung Fu Panda. This means that Kai has returned. Jin muttered to himself in shock before gulping his saliva in fear. He's already strong by standards, however if it comes with Kai, who's probably more stronger than Master Shifu and fought side by side with Master Oogway, Jin's confidence is very low if he faced him. Lui Xuan. Li Shan introduced himself, however due to the dumplings in his mouth, it's very hard to understand what he said. What? Gulp. Gulping down all of the dumplings in his mouth, Li Shan then introduced himself again, but this time, more clear and properly. My name is Li Shan. Li Shan said while bringing down his hat from his head. I'm looking for my son. Li Shan continued. Gasp. Everyone in the vicinity gasped in shock, even Master Shifu wasn't spared as he also gasped in shock, including Mr. Ping. You're looking for your son? Po said with a hint of pity in his tone. Yes. Many years ago. I lost my father. Po also expressed his situation, which seems similar to Li Shen. I'm sorry. Li Shen said his condolences as Po thanked him. Well, good luck to you. Li Shen said and was about to leave when Jin decided to interfere. He can't handle the two idiots who can't even recognize that the one they're looking for is already in front of them. Oh, for the sake of God. Po, that's your dad, and Li, that's your son. Jin yelled at them while dragging Li Shen back to face Po and Po to face Li Shen. Gasp. Being slapped by the realization, both father-son gasped in shock as Po excitedly said. F father. Ha. What are you standing there for? Give your old man a hug. Li Shen excitedly said as Po gasped more that almost as if he's out of breath. The moment the two of them hugged each other, their bellies collided making a funny sound. Asterisk boing. Asterisk. Ha ha ha. You're my son. I thought I've lost you. Li Shen remarked. I thought you were dead. As the two were having their reunion, the original FS5 including Master Shifu and Jin, all sighed and slapped their foreheads. Well, at least they're reunited. While Jin was speaking, the gongs suddenly started blaring, alarming everyone in the valley. The gongs could only mean one thing. The valley is under attack. CH-32, the Jade Masters. Clang. Deflecting one of the Jade Masters' attack, Jin was overwhelmed by 4 masters attacking him at the same time. Okay, I regret coming here faster. Jin said to himself in regret. Thankfully the rest of them has finally arrived, along with Li Shen, who was being shown around by Po, despite fighting the Jade Masters. Swaz. Dodging Master Porcupine's arrows, Jin used a nearby walk to deflect the rest of the arrows before throwing the walk to Master Porcupine, who just took the walk head-on, without suffering any injury. Well, they're made of chi, so I guess it's kinda impossible to hurt them. Jin said to himself before rushing towards Master Porcupine. Swoosh, X10. Dodging all of the arrows thrown at him, Jin arrived in front of Master Porcupine and was about to deliver a blow to his head when he was suddenly intercepted by 2 other Jade Masters. Annoying! Jin exclaimed as he decided to take out the twin badgers first. Their combos were not only annoying but also troublesome. Aren't these masters supposed to be dead like 100 years ago? Monkey said I'm confusion, as he parried some of the Jade Masters' attacks, however due to him babbling his mouth, he was caught off guard and was blasted away by Master Porcupine. Ha! Arriving with a blast, Tigress blasted one of the Badger twins in the air before Crane swiftly arrives and delivered a devastating wing attack on the Master Badger. Wings of Justice! Crane yelled his attack, before using both of his wings to generate a wind wave strong enough to destroy an entire tree from its root. Whoa! This is awesome! Quick! Give me someone to fight! Po excitedly said, wanting to shore off in front of his father. Hearing his request, Mantis decided to grant it. He fought off with the other Master Badger twin and threw him towards Po. Whoa! Unfortunately for him, Po failed to show off as Mantis's throw was too fast and strong. Oops, sorry. Mantis quickly apologized before being hit by one of Master Porcupine's arrows. Bam! Emerging from Master Porcupine's side, Jin swept his legs underneath Master Porcupine before using a metallic stick to choke on Master Porcupine. Staring at Master Porcupine's eyes, Jin saw that it was glowing in green, so he could already tell that Kai must have been watching him by now. So, you're the Dragon Warrior. Your chi is impressive. I could sense your chi is very destructive. Ha ha ha, I can't wait to take your chi. Hearing Master Porcupine talk with Kai's voice, Jin responded. And who are you? Despite knowing about Kai, Jin obviously can't reveal himself, so he asked. The one and only, General Kai. The supreme warlord of all China. Master of pain and maker of widows. Who? Tigress appeared behind him along with Monkey and the rest, while in their arms were the twin badgers, without budging. Hey? You don't know me? Fine, it's only natural for Oogway to erase me from history. No worries, just wait for me and I'll make sure you'll never forget about me. As soon as Kai finished stating his purpose, the three Jade Masters started shaking involuntarily before turning into wisps of green chi as it took off in the sky. Master, do you know about Kai? Tigress asked. Kai. Master Shifu seemed to be racking his brain, and just when his face says something as if he finally got it, his expression suddenly turned bland. Nope, never heard of him. A/N, I always liked this scene, it never fails to make me laugh. He mentioned Master Oogway, so he's somehow related to him. While they're walking back to the Jade Palace in order to know more about General Kai, Jin decided to not join them as he already knows who Kai is and how to defeat him. Walking to the peach tree of heavenly wisdom, Jin sat on the ground while leaning on the tree. Questions were running inside his head. Could he defeat Kai? Unlike Po in the movie, who has the plot armor and the pandas using their chi to help him, Jin doesn't have any of that, so what he needs is pure strength to defeat Kai. Sure, he could go to the panda village, but would he surely be able to get their trust and belief like how Po did in the movie? Jin is sure that it would be hard considering he's not a fellow panda of theirs. Hey, peach tree. Do you think I could defeat Kai? Jin then chuckled after asking the peach tree, and as expected, he received no response, so he went back to thinking by himself. I could either try what Po did in the movie, which is to take Kai back to the spirit realm. However, the problem is, it would make it easier for Kai to defeat me there and take my chi. Scratching his head in irritation, Jin knew he stand no chance against Kai unless he unlocks his angel bloodline or something. As he thought of this, Jin's eyes suddenly widened in surprise. That's it. I just need to somehow unlock my angel bloodline. If not, maybe Jin's devil bloodline should also work. But how? Standing up, Jin started pacing around as he tries to think on how would he unlock his bloodline. Maybe I should increase my Jin Kazama percentage. I remember it was already in 84%. Jin then proceeded to inhale and exhale in order to calm himself. Okay, don't get too excited, Jin. First, I need to train my ass off before Kai arrives. Just when Jin was about to leave to train, he suddenly heard a voice that he hasn't heard for months. Looks like you finally got your problem solved. God suddenly appeared while sitting on top of the peach tree. God? Oh, how I missed your voice. Jin sighed in relief. These few days he thought God had already forgotten about him. Don't be like that, I was just busy with a few things. There's this guy that decided to kill children with an axe, tisk tisk, it's quite sad how humanity has fallen. God then sighed and shook his head in disappointment. Well, I hope those kids are in good hands now. Now that you're here, can you tell me a way to unlock my angel bloodline? I already found my inner peace, but I haven't unlocked it yet. Jin was desperate to know. Sigh, if only you didn't get Jin Kazama's template, then you wouldn't be having this problem now. Your angel bloodline has long been activated, it's just that Jin Kazama's devil bloodline is interfering, both sides are having a clash and you need to make peace between the both of them. God said while pointing at his heart. Wait, what? But how? Jin was shocked by the revelation as he asked. Search it within your soul and you shall find the answer you seek. God said before disappearing after Jin blinked. How the hell am I supposed to do that? Jin was about to throw his arms in the air when he heard Tigress's voice. Jin. Hey, Tigress? What are you doing here? Jin asked as he gestured for Tigress to sit next to him. Tigress did as he gestured before intertwining their fingers together. She's getting bold. I like it. Jin thought to himself as Tigress started explaining to him about Kai and his past with Oogway. You should come with Po and his father. Li Shan will teach Po about Qi and Master Shifu requests to bring you along. Tigress said with a hint of sadness in her voice, as if not wanting to be away from Jin. Chuckling, Jin tightened the grip between their fingers as he spoke. I'm going nowhere. I'm staying here with you. But let Po go with his father. Just in case I failed to defeat Kai, Po might be our only chance. Jin said with a slight confident smile. Really? Tigress's face beamed in happiness. However, realizing that she's not supposed to show excitement, she cleared her expression and asked. I mean, why? That's because I'm 100% confident that Li Shan doesn't know Qi. Jin smiled mysteriously before standing up. Tell Master Shifu that I would be staying, if you need me, I'll just be in the training halls. Jin said before leaving under Tigress's complicated and confused gaze. Don't worry about him, he knows what he's doing. Suddenly, Tigress heard a voice behind her. Quickly turning around, Tigress was faced with God's smiling face while sitting on the same branch that he sat on earlier. Who are you? How did you reach this place? Tigress assumed her tiger-style stance while her eyes were squinting towards God. Me? God chuckled before spreading his arms in a lazy manner. I'm God. Reaching the training hall, Jin saw that it was empty, so he decided to warm up first before testing his current limits. I have several techniques in my head that belong to Jin Kazama. However, I rarely use some of it. Right now I need to train with those techniques. Kai is my enemy this time, meaning I can't use any other strategies, only close combat fight. With that said, Jin then proceed to wear his gloves, which he only wears whenever he's on a mission or fighting someone. Jin already knows the techniques and he's sure that he could perform them as if some kind of muscle memory. However, he can't simply rely on that. Jin wanted to familiarize himself on the techniques in order to use them to their potential in several situations. The first technique I should practice with is the Kanchan Sekanzuki technique, one of Jin's terrifying techniques. After scheming his mind, Jin came across a certain techniques that would not only train his body movements but also his lightning chi. Ch33, Full Potential of Lightning Chi. It's been hours since Jin started training the Kanchan Sekanzuki technique, and so far, he could only release his lightning chi on his arm, but he can't achieve the results that he wanted. Several uprooted trees lay on the ground, some have the middle cut off while the rest have scorched holes in them. Stepping back, Jin's body straightened except for his left extended arm, which seems to be releasing a devastating red lightning. The red lightning seems to be traveling from his left arm throughout his entire body before heading towards his right arm that has already punched forward. Boom! The poor tree in front of him not only got uprooted from the ground but a large scorched hole. Once the entire tree got uprooted, it traveled far back before colliding with another tree. Bam! Unfortunately, the momentum wasn't strong enough to take down the second tree along. This should be the limit, not the one I wanted, but it's the limit of this technique, I guess. It may look like not that much, but according to my memories of the technique, that lightning chi wasn't just for show. It's the main force of the technique itself, as not only it could destroy and fry their insides, but also disrupt their chi to a certain amount of time, making their chi unstable. It's a good technique to the likes of Kai, who relies heavily on their chi. Jin analyzed and explained to no one, as he likes to talk to himself. Thankfully, I mastered it in just a few hours. The only thing left is to familiarize myself with it. And after that, I'll proceed to the next technique. Soon after that, Jin repeated the technique a few more times on other trees. Looking at the fallen trees, Jin felt like he was hurting Mother Nature and Earth. Maybe I could do that chi technique that gives your chi to others. Muttering these words, Jin held both of his hands against each other before inhaling and exhaling. With his eyes closed, Jin focused on the chi inside his body, slowly harnessing it from its resting state. He then opened his eyes and spread his palms forward, towards the little tree sapling in front of him. At first, nothing was happening, no light appearing, nor is the tree sapling growing, but Jin didn't give up. He maintained that kind of stance for a few more seconds before finally feeling a sense of calm and tranquility washing over him, especially on his palm. Hum! With a humming sound, Jin's palm glowed in golden light along with the tree sapling, who slowly grew, that can be noticed even in the naked eye. The little tree sapling, who is only 10 centimeters in height, slowly grew from a sapling to a young tree. The chi not only can give life to others to heal them but also help them grow, like how the tree sapling turned into a small tree. Phew, I can't believe that took a lot of me. I could do at least 10 times of the Kanchan Sekanzuki technique before exhausting myself like this. Jin said to himself in haggard breaths before sitting next to the young tree that he cast the chi technique upon. An hour later, Jin's stomach made a gurgling sound, indicating that he needs food. Welp, it's time to take a small break to eat. But, Po and Mr. Ping are probably gone by now, so where do I eat then? After contemplating, Jin decided to learn how to cook. After all, it doesn't hurt to try, and Jin Kazama does know a thing or two in cooking food, albeit not as good as Po's noodles. Standing up and patting his butt to remove the dust, Jin then takes his leave, walking back to the kitchen. Chopping sounds. Who's cooking? Monkey said after walking inside the dinner room followed by Mantis and Crane. Me. Jin answered while putting the chopped vegetables on the wok. You know how to cook? Monkey asked before sitting on the chair. I know a thing or two. Jin shrugs his shoulder before focusing back on the cooking. A few minutes later, Tigress entered the dining room with determination in her eyes as the moment she saw Jin's back, Tigress smiled softly. Jin, can we talk? Tigress asked after approaching Jin's back and hugging him from hug. Hey! Aren't I supposed to be the one to hug her from behind? At least that's what it says in some movies and novels. Jin said to himself, though he felt he's the feminine one in the relationship. Well, I guess I'll just have to show her who's dominant in the relationship, in bed. Seeing how Tigress hugged Jin from his behind, Crane quickly dragged Mantis and Monkey outside without listening to their complaints. What do you want to talk about? Jin asked back after washing his hand and turning to face Tigress's smiling face. I already know. Tigress said. Know what? Jin raised his eyebrow. About you and God. A few hours ago. God? Why should I believe the words coming out of your mouth? Tigress frowned at God's words. You don't have to believe me. I just want to tell you something about Jin. God said with a shrug. What about Jin? Tigress squinted her eyes at God, ready to pounce on him if he moves. You see, Jin is an angel of mine. And I noticed his buried problems within him, even if he tries to hide it. What are you talking about? What do you mean by he's an angel? Tigress got more and more confused. He's an angel that I sent on a mission, you see. That is to prevent a great war happening. His job is too heavy for him and I can't bear to see him fight alone. God lied through his teeth without changing expressions. What great war? What is that? How come I don't know about it? Tigress asked more as her confusion passes by, however she was worried the most in the Great War as she thought that this Great War is something that will occur in her world. It is a great war that will shook the entire multiverse. And yes, it involves your world and many other worlds. Jin's mission is to prevent this war from happening. But he can't do it alone, he needs allies that he could trust and rely on. Tell me, Tigress, who do you think I am referring to? Tigress was speechless as she realized that this great war was worse than she expected. After a moment of thinking, Tigress stared at God's eyes once again and said, full of determination in her voice. All right, what do I have to do? Nothing much. Be strong and accompany him in his upcoming journey, trust me, having someone by your side is better than being alone. God gave his final advice before slowly disappearing, under Tigress's amused eyes. Present. Rubbing his temples, Jin can't believe that God would actually tell Tigress about him, though he's grateful to him for not mentioning his past life to her, he's not ready yet and probably will never be. Though, he's amused by the lie that God made up, which is the Great War. A/N, just a question, I need your opinions. Do you want his women to know about his past life? I'm ready, Jin. I will stay by your side until the day I die. Tigress said with a warm smile on her face that tempted Jin to kiss her. Chiyu. Of course, Jin was tempted to, so why not give in? That's a bit cringe but I like it. After giving her a deep kiss, Jin replied. It's all your fault anyway, you turned me into this. Tigress playfully punched him in the chest as she responded. Well, I don't regret it. Jin shrugged his shoulders and said. So, what do we do now? Kai is coming, right? Is God going to help you? Tigress then changed the topic and asked. Probably not. He has helped me enough, and I'm sure he wants me to overcome this. Jin replied with a shake of his head. I just need to train and once I'm strong enough, I should be able to handle Kai. Jin assured her with a smile before proceeding to finish what he was cooking. What about me? What should I do? Tigress asked. I want you to get strong, my little kitty. Just like what God said, perhaps I would need a strong ally in my journey. Jin smiled and said. Get strong. Tigress muttered as she stared at her own hands before closing them into a fist. A new goal has appeared in her mind. After eating what he cooked, Jin then proceeded to go back to training, however Tigress decided to join him. Have you practiced your chi? Jin asked her while meditating on the ground. He's trying to harness the chi inside him and if possible, increase his chi reserves. Yeah, but I could only do the technique inscribed in the scroll. Tigress said before taking off her robe, leaving only her pants and a white bandeau that covers her cleavage. Jin can't help but stare at her while gulping her saliva. During their make-out session, he barely saw her breasts as it was covered under the water level, however now that he saw her entire breast, Jin's junior turned quickly hard. Seeing Jin stare at her breast, Tigress smirked in victory before straightening her back, fully showing the size of her bosom. It might not be that big but Jin could still see her cleavage. It should be a B-cup or something. Jin nodded his head like some wise sage. Ch 34, the arrival of Kai. Before the day ends, Master Shifu was about to send Crane and Mantis to follow Kai's trail. However, knowing what will happen to them, Jin immediately interfered before they could leave. No, don't go. I have a bad feeling. We need everyone here just in case Kai arrives. Jin made up an excuse which Master Shifu seemed to buy. Perhaps Jin is right. By sending his Jade Masters here, then there's a possibility that he already knows where we are. We must stay together. Master Shifu nodded his head in agreement. All right, I need you all to evacuate the valley, make sure no one gets left behind here except for us. And yes, you too Fluff. Jin said then pointed at Fluff who was wearing an all-black outfit that looks similar to a ninja suit. There's actually a reason why Fluff became like this. A few months ago, Jin was training Fluff for the first time and in no time, he immediately saw the potential of Fluff along with his weaknesses. Obviously, Fluff is weak physically but his speed was incredibly fast. Probably faster than Mantis. Lacking in strength but overflowing in speed, Jin knew at that time what would be the most suitable for Fluff. The way of the ninja. Ninjas are known to be fast and deadly, they work in the dark by blending in their surroundings, killing their enemies in cold blood. However, Jin doesn't want to turn such a cute bunny into a cold-blooded assassin, so he only trained him on how to blend in the shadows with his all-black outfit along with using his speed to his advantage. Surprisingly, Fluff could also use his speed to jump from tree branch to tree branch, similar to how the ninjas in Naruto world works. Due to this, Jin approached a blacksmith that Master Shifu himself recommended and submitted the design of a shuriken and a kunai. Jin doesn't know how to use those kinds of weapons, so he only trained Fluff based on what he watched in Naruto like throwing kunais and stuff and fighting using one. Thanks to Jin's talent, he also learned how to use one by himself, which helped him train Fluff effectively. Now, a few months later, Fluff might not be as strong as the other species, however his deadly speed would definitely give trouble to opponents he would face. Hearing Jin's order to him, Fluff simply bowed before disappearing in a blur. Looks like someone already beats you in terms of speed. Monkey elbowed Mantis while making fun of him. Having only speed will bring him nowhere, he also needs strength which he doesn't have. Mantis replied with a huff. Just admit it, you're jelly that someone could be faster than you and a rabbit at that. Monkey still insisted on teasing him, almost breaking out if it wasn't for Master Shifu's glare. Monkey and Mantis might seem like they hate each other's guts, however in the Furious Six, their comradeship is the most solid, ready to take a knife to the heart for each other, something that Jin admires about them. A few days later, Jin and Tigress were training as usual when Master Shifu called them in an emergency meeting. What's going on? Viper asked with eye bags under her eyes. No one knows the reason but the moment Po left, Viper seems to be having a hard time sleeping and if it wasn't for Mantis sometimes putting her to sleep by striking some of her nerves, her eye bags would probably be bigger than now. An arrow with a scroll has arrived to me. Master Ocelot was defeated by Kai. Master Shifu said with a worry as he held the scroll tightly. Swoosh. Soon, a few more arrows came flying to them carrying different kinds of scrolls but one thing for sure, is that each scroll contains bad news of a master's downfall under Kai's might. Even Master Rhino and Master Croc. Mantis soon also got worried as Jin looked at this with a slight nervous expression. He knew that any time soon, Kai would arrive here and it would be their time to face Kai. We must be prepared, I'm not sure how long till Kai gets here but there are still a few masters out there, hopefully one of them successfully defeats Kai. Master Shifu said however, he knew that what he was saying is nothing but a false hope just to increase everyone's hope and morale. Unfortunately, it didn't work as everyone here knows how strong Kai is and that it took countless nights for Master Oogway to even send him to the spirit realm. And how long was that? Hundreds of years ago. Who knows how strong Kai is compared to his past self? This time, Master Oogway really left them a huge headache. I'll go back first. I need to train. Jin said before walking away. During these past few days, Jin has tried every method to look into his soul as God has stated in order for him to find peace between his devil bloodline and angel bloodline. However, nothing worked, even the famous meditation does nothing. How am I supposed to defeat Kai now? Jin sighed inside his head while rubbing his temples. Anyways, if he still can't find peace between his two bloodlines, then he'd spend the rest of his time training and sparring with Tigress. Thankfully, Tigress has turned out to be a good sparring partner. Her ferocious fighting style proved to be difficult to fight against. Both Jin and Tigress are slowly improving thanks to their constant training and sparring. What are you thinking? Arriving next to him, Tigress asked. It's about Kai, I'm just thinking about how to defeat him. Jin was about to say nothing, however Tigress's deadpan expression tells him that she knows that he's thinking about something and it's not nothing. So, he sighed and told her. You're not defeating him. Tigress said, and just when Jin was about to speak out in confusion, she continued. We will defeat him. Jin, you are not alone. There's a reason why destiny made us meet, perhaps God was right, you need a strong companion and I'm happy to fill that spot. Tigress assured him, making her face mesmerizing to Jin's eyes. Thanks. Jin smiled warmly and thanked her before planting a kiss on her lips. Let's go. We have no time to waste, it's time to train. Jin said before walking in an open space and motioning for Tigress to come in a challenging manner. Provoked, Tigress smirked before running towards. She then jumped and backflipped before slamming her right foot towards Jin, who immediately blocked it with both of his palms. Boom! Their collision has caused a large shockwave throughout the area, blowing the leaves and dust in the air. Jin then used this chance to grab Tigress's leg and slam her on the floor before throwing her away. Boom! Landing on the floor in all fours, Tigress growled before rushing towards Jin and using her signature move, which is placing her paws forward, similar to a Kamehameha stance. Meanwhile, Jin also rushed forward and executed one of his techniques, which is the Rising Sun technique, a technique which consists of Jin jumping in the air and spinning mid-air with his left leg extended forward, using the momentum of the spin to deliver a devastating kick. Both of their attacks soon collided, making every tiny speck of dust in the area float in the air for a few seconds, as if time had stopped. Master Shifu, who was passing by, watched in awe as he could feel the shockwave blowing all of the hairs in his face, including his robe. Fascinating, they have surpassed me, was what Master Shifu was thinking. However, they only surpassed him in strength, but when it comes to battle experience, he's still above them. Nonetheless, it's not wrong to say that they have indeed surpassed Master Shifu. A few days have passed again, Tigress and Jin never stopped their training, only when they eat or clean themselves. Their constant spars and training has encouraged the original Furious Five to also train by themselves. Heck, even Master Shifu decided to resume his training in Qi. Despite only having one technique in Qi, which is to give Qi, Master Shifu insisted on trying to manipulate the Qi inside him. It's not like he hasn't done such a thing in the past, it's just that he hasn't found a reason to train it yet, until now. With all of them training diligently, Jin is sure that Kai would be having trouble fighting them, not to mention, in the movie, there's only Master Shifu, Tigress, Viper and Monkey that fought against Kai. But now? Mantis and Crane didn't leave like in the canon and they all have trained their ass off, not to mention, Jin is with them this time. Another day passed, a bunch of new arrows carrying scrolls arrived, this time all the masters in the entire China had been defeated by Kai and probably had their Qi taken by him, making Kai stronger than usual. We are the only ones left. Tigress muttered while looking down on her palm, which is more callous than the previous, showing how hard she has been training with Jin during these past few days. Kai must be on his way here now. Everyone, prepare yourselves. Master Shifu said with a grim expression. Flap. Thud. Crane flew above them before landing on the ground and said with the same expression. We have a situation on the north side, it seems to me that Kai has arrived. Crane said before pointing his wing towards the north side of the Jade Palace, which is covered in clouds with a tint of green color in the area. Jin's expression turned serious as he rushed over there with determination in his eyes. Following him was Tigress and the rest. The moment they arrived, Jin was in the front while beside him were Master Shifu and the Furious Five. Arrival of Kai theme song plays. Cling. A large bull calmly walked towards them, his eyes were shining green while the weapons on his hands were also green and sharp blades, flipping them and letting the blade slash on the ground, creating a menacing entrance. Kai has arrived. CH-35, fighting Kai. Kai. Jin mentioned his name while squinting his eyes, his hands turning into fists. Nice. Very tacky. Kai said with a smirk as he stared at Oogway's large statue. How dare you set foot in these grounds? Master Shifu stepped forward angrily, not liking Kai's comment on Oogway's statue. Look at you pathetic fools! Groveling at the feet of Oogway the Magnificent. You are not fit to speak his name. Tigress responded angrily. I am not fit, little kid. Kai didn't finish Taihe's words when Jin cut him off. Hold up, I'm sorry to tell you this, but I'm the only one in position to call her that. So, how about we save all these useless chats later and start fighting? Jin said while stepping forward, cracking his neck and knuckles. Sounds good to me. I like you now, Dragon Warrior. Almost makes me want to spare you. Kai said as he chuckled before throwing his weapons towards Oogway's statue, wanting to destroy it so he could destroy their momentum. However, Jin knew that Master Shifu and the rest would not like it, so jumping forward, he kicked the green blades away from Oogway's statue. How pathetic, your enemy is not a statue, or perhaps the great Kai only knows how to fight immovable things. Jin mocked, deliberately taunting Kai to fight him instead. Why am I even taunting him? Shouldn't I be afraid of him? Jin said to himself as his lips contorted into a grin, the devil bloodline inside him slowly turning him into a battle maniac. However, Jin doesn't know this. You are starting to piss me off. Kai's face twitched in anger as he violently threw his blades towards Jin, intending to kill him as painfully as possible as the blades were directed towards Jin's shoulders. As soon as the first blade reached him, Jin then tilted his body slightly as the blade slowly passed by him. However, Jin's intention wasn't to let it pass, but to grab the handle and pull the blade strongly, making the chain attached to it to wiggle and wrap itself on the next upcoming blade. As soon as it was wrapped, Jin wasted no time and stabbed the blade on the ground, stepping on the blade as Kai has now lost both of his blades. Hmwahi, you remind me of Oogway, minus the chi. Finishing what he said, Kai yelled loudly as he used his entire strength to pull the blade back to him. Rue arg. Widening his eyes, Jin immediately jumped away from his spot as the entire floor where he used to stand was uprooted from the ground due to the stabbed blade on the floor. With Kai's pull, the entire floor flew towards Kai as he grabbed the other blade and immediately unwrapped the chains on its handle before using this blade to slash the entire flying floor in half before finally getting his last blade back. This small exchange between them has increased the Furious Five and Master Shifu's morale. I admit, you're strong, but what about your friends? Kai smirked as he blew air through his nostrils before grabbing a bunch of jade stones from his waist and used his blade to propel the jade stones towards Master Shifu and the Furious Five. Everyone spread. Jin gave his order as they all nodded and spread. It is better to spread around lest they might be surrounded by the upcoming Jade Masters. Jin could see that the advantage of numbers has reversed as Kai released at least 10 Jade Masters to fight them. Tigress took 2 Jade Masters alone while Master Shifu fought 4 Jade Masters all by himself. The rest of the Jade Master were handled by Monkey, Mantis, Viper, and Crane. Meanwhile, Jin and Kai were facing each other. I like your determination and courage, Dragon Warrior. Tell me your name. Kai asked while pointing his green blade on Jin. Jin Kazama. Jin, a good name fitting for a worthy opponent. I hope you give me enough entertainment before I devour your chi. Kai grinned as his eyes glowed in green. Jin knows that Kai is probably checking his chi reserves. Unlike other chi which is gold in color, Jin's are red in color. Something I've never seen or heard. And looking at it makes my blood boil. Kai thought to himself as he kept flipping his blades by the chains for a few more times before swinging them towards the floor in front of Jin. Stepping back slightly, the blades collided on the floor in front of Jin, stabbing itself on the ground before Kai used this to propel himself towards Jin. As Kai was mid-air, he pulled his blades back to his hands before tilting his body slightly to deliver a slashing attack on Jin. Thankfully, Jin's gloves were made of durable material, blocking Kai's attack as he tried to slash Jin the moment they got close. Clang! However, just because Jin blocked his attack, doesn't mean Kai would stop. Without giving Jin a time to breathe, Kai attacked again by giving a Spartan kick to Jin. Using his arms to block, Kai's kick collided with his forearms, causing a green shockwave that makes it as if Kai's attack was infused with his chi, which is not wrong as Kai has indeed infused his attacks with chi. Boom! Thrown away, Jin's ragdoll body collided with a few trees, with each tree slowing his momentum before stopping completely. Fuck! Jin cursed as he could feel his forearms go numb from just a kick of Kai. Ching! Hearing the sound of metallic chains, Jin wasted no time and immediately jumped away from his position just in time for Kai's two menacing green blades to smash the ground of his previous position. Jin sweats a bit as he knows that if he didn't dodge in time, he'd surely be dead, if not he'd surely lose one of his arms. Damn you, Oogway! You could have finished Kai in the spirit realm but still decided on sending him to me. Jin complained in his mind as he watched in the movie how Oogway could surely defeat Kai on his own but decided to have Po handle it. If I ever see him again, I'll make sure to drop a sharp but small pin inside his shell. Jin made a note to himself as the blades came back to Kai's hands. Is this all you can do, Dragon Warrior? I expected a great battle between us but so far, I'm very disappointed. Kai shook his head in disapproval, purposely taunting Jin to attack him. Well, what are you waiting for? Finish me off then, because if not... Jin then slowly assumed his Kazama-style stance as he continued. I can do this all day. Jin continued making Kai smirk before dropping on all fours and sprinting towards Jin. Fu exhaling, Jin stepped his leg back as red lightning sparked on his extended hand and the moment Kai reached a certain distance between them, Jin thrust his other hand in a quick manner. Boom! Obviously, Kai should dodge his attack, however Kai was confident in himself and decided to tank Jin's attack. And that would be his regret as the moment Jin's lightning-covered fist collided with Kai's face, the entire world came as if into a halt as Kai spit out saliva while his face deformed from the punch. Boom! Kai's entire body came flying backwards as the momentum didn't stop until Kai's body reached a long distance where his flying body slowly reached its maximum momentum before it finally slowed down. Bam! Kai's body flipped and skidded on the ground, destroying the dirt in a straight line. 2. Grrrrrrr. Spitting out the dirt on his mouth, Kai growled as his eyes glowed in green. Seeing that Jin was rushing towards him, Kai gripped his blades and slowly flipped them by the chains before throwing them on the tree behind him, each blade stabbing itself on a tree. Ruwaek. Pulling the chains, the blades came back flying along with the tree it stabbed itself to before throwing them towards Jin. Seeing the two flying trees in front of him, Jin jumped and used the tree as a stepping stone before he continued running, but instead of running on the ground, Jin amazingly balanced himself as he ran by chains. Ching! Each step he takes makes the chain create a metallic sound, and he soon arrives in front of Kai, who blows out air through his nostrils. Hyorg! Clenching his fists, Kai tries to punch Jin, who simply jumped off the chain and ducked on the ground before stomping to propel himself in front of Kai. Hoo! Looking up at Kai, Jin then jumped from his crouched position with his fist finding itself embedded on Kai's chin. Boom! Looking at Kai's flying body, Jin then proceeded to grab both of Kai's feet in midair before slamming him on the ground. Boom! As clouds of dust covered the area, Kai felt something locking on his neck. When the dust settled, Kai noticed that Jin seemed to be choking him. Really? This was your plan? Choking me to death? I'm a spirit warrior. Nothing could kill me anymore as I'm already dead. Kai arrogantly said as Jin remained motionless and responded. Unfortunately for you, I'm not trying to choke you. Jin said and then smirked. Feeling a bad premonition, Kai suddenly heard Jin mutter a word. Kai. Mixed with fear and shock, Kai saw his surroundings slowly being surrounded by bright golden light. You! What are you doing? You're crazy! Damn you! With his final words in the mortal realm, both Jin and Kai were fully enveloped by the golden dome of light before the light exploded and spread across the entire valley. Meanwhile, Master Shifu and the Furious Five, who were busy fighting their opponents, suddenly felt the huge golden shock wave and saw their opponents freezing up and turning back into small jade stones. They all sighed in relief, except for Master Shifu and Tigress. Jin, did he perhaps cast the Wuxi finger hold on Kai? If so, where is he now? Master Shifu muttered, which was heard by Tigress, who immediately rushed towards the large forest, where she last saw Kai and Jin fighting. Ch 36, the devil. I was a bit sleepy when I was writing this as it was already past my natural bedtime, lol. So, there might be some errors or something. Dash underscore 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 underscore. In the spirit world, Kai and Jin appeared together in a flash of golden light, standing on top of a large floating rock. What have you done? You brought me back. Kai angrily snarled at Jin. Not my fault, you forced me. Jin shrugged his shoulders and said. What he said is actually true. He knows that if he didn't defeat Kai in the mortal realm, his next target without doubt will be the Furious Five and Master Shifu. Obviously, Jin has formed a bond with them and he would protect them. It doesn't matter, as long as I get your chi, I could go back to the mortal world again. Kai stated as he swung his blades around his body, slowly gaining momentum before throwing them both towards Jin. Seriously, don't you have any other moves? All you know is to throw your chain weapon around and hope for the best. Jin complained, taunting Kai to get in close combat with him. In the spirit realm, he has lost his environmental advantage as Kai obviously knows his way around the spirit realm as he has been in this realm for hundreds of years while Jin just got here. The main reason is because he would have a hard time fighting Kai if he just kept throwing his blades towards him, which would exhaust him as time pass. Thankfully, the taunt worked as Kai smirked arrogantly before taking his weapons back to his hands. Fine. I'll make you regret trying to fight me in close combat. With that said, Kai jumped from his position before rotating his blades while in midair before slamming them towards Jin, followed by his body. Jumping back, Kai's blades collided on the floor and soon Kai also followed, destroying the floor and creating a large pothole. The dust didn't even settle in when Kai rushed out of the dust with a vicious expression. Stunned, Jin fortunately managed to deflect one of Kai's attacks before countering on his own with a roundhouse kick. Boom! Kai just simply used his arms to block his kick before slamming his head on Jin's. Bam! Dizzy, Jin shook his head to remove it when Kai had already pounced on him. Tying the chains around his body before Kai pulls the chains, slamming Jin on the ground. Boom! Kai then went on to pull the chains again, but this time, he directed the chains on the other side of the floor, slamming Jin once again on the floor. It looks similar to what Hulk did to Loki, except that it was the chains that were smashing him on the ground. Bam! Filled in pain, Jin tried his best to fight back, however the chains were tightly wrapping itself on his body, allowing no movements from him. Once Kai was done, he then proceeded to pull the chains back to him, and the moment Jin's tied body reached him, Kai then grabbed Jin by the neck, choking him slightly. How does it feel now, hey? Don't worry, this will be over soon. Hee. Kai taunted him back as he chuckled a bit before throwing Jin midair, and since the gravity on spirit realm is almost non-existent, Jin stayed afloat as Kai does his magic. Soon after this, I'll go to your little friends and your master. It'd be best if you state your last words now, so I could pass the message to them. Kai chuckled and said before putting his palms forward, which glowed in green. Desperate, Jin tried his best to escape the chains, but to no avail, it wasn't budging. Am I gonna die like this? Finally, Jin felt true fear for the first time, the fear not because of Kai, but because of his impending death, which would leave Tigress alone by herself along with his friends. His sweet memories in the Kung Fu Panda world flashed by his mind one by one as Jin could remember everyone's smirk during his encounter with them. And lastly, Tigress's smiling face dawned on his mind, her calming and reassuring words slowly chipped off the fear he was feeling, being replaced with a warm and tranquil feeling as if he could take on the entire world. On the outside, Jin's body was slowly being consumed by the green chi, which has already covered his entire body, and his head would soon follow. During this process, Jin's eyes kept closed as his whole life was flashing before his eyes. The images in his head kept changing quickly from Tigress to Po to the Furious Five to Master Shifu to Master Oogway, and so on before finally settling in with Tigress. No. I can't die. Jin decisively said inside his mind as he could feel his body slowly becoming hot until steam came out of his nostrils and mouth, much to Kai's confusion. What the? At this moment, Kai also noticed that the process of absorbing Jin's chi came to a halt. Under Kai's shocked eyes, Jin's body slowly went into a process that changed his appearance slowly. Horns started protruding from his temples while tattoos appeared on both his forehead and his scarred chest. In the middle of his forehead, a menacing red slit opened up, making Kai shudder a bit as he noticed this. As this goes on, the green chi that covers his body slowly shrinks back, freeing his body from the process as time goes on. How is this possible? Kai asked in confusion and shock while stepping back slightly. Pure white wings emerged from his back, flapping madly like a chicken that was freed from its cage, breaking the chains that tied Jin at the same time. Flap! However, just as the pure white wings flapped itself for the first time, each feathers then started turning into black as if a black ink was poured into the feathers. The wing kept flapping madly, making Jin fly in the air as the wings had finally become pure black. Finally, Jin opened his eyes, which were surprisingly glowing in red, which is the same color as the lightning that is crackling around his body. Jin chuckled as his eyes went on Kai as if he was a god looking down on an ant. Fear the wrath of God. Jin's slightly deep and scary voice uttered as he stared at his surroundings. What a pleasant surrounding, makes me want to make it mine, but Oogway would definitely not like it. Besides, I have to deal with you first, Ant. Devil Jin arrogantly said as Kai didn't like being called an ant and looked down upon despite feeling a bad premonition in his heart. So what if you transformed? Nothing will change. This time, Kai decided to take this very seriously, similar to what he and Oogway fought 500 years ago. Change? I'll show you change. Devil Jin smirked as he raised his hand in the air. Suddenly, Kai felt a grip over his body before floating in the air in front of him. Remaining motionless at Jin's mercy, Kai could simply stare at Jin's eyes that is slowly turning red before firing a hot fiery red beam out of his eye sockets. Boom! Without even seeing the fiery beam, Kai was thrown several miles away from Jin due to the fiery beam that not only dragged him toward its direction but also pierced through his body. Before landing on a nearby floating boulder. Without uttering a word, Jin simply flashed and appeared in front of the fallen Kai, several miles away from his previous position. How does this change feel now, Ant? Jin asked while tilting his head. Cough. Cough, you can't kill me, Dragon Warrior, as I am already dead. When the dust settles in, Kai spoke while staggering slightly forward. The huge hole on his abdomen slowly got covered by green motes of light, which is his chi. His chi finally finished covering the huge hole in his abdomen before turning back to his skin as if nothing happened. Immortal? I remember killing several beings who call themselves as such, and do you know what happened to them? Jin said with a grin while following up a question before he continued. They all begged for mercy before they met their maker. Devil Jin whispered before grinning like a devil. I won't lose. Kai yelled angrily. He could already feel his ending coming near and he would do everything to make sure he wins the battle. He then proceeded to grab Oogway's jade stone and was about to activate it when Jin's eyes squinted at Kai, making Kai freeze. Devil Jin then dived in with his wings before grabbing Kai by the neck and flew back in the air. Devil Jin continued staring at Kai's face that is filled with determination and unyielding will. I admire your will, but it's time for you to have a taste of your own medicine. Devil Jin said before his eyes glowed in red. The same also happened to Kai, who could feel his entire energy being drained and absorbed by Jin. No. You can't do this to me. I can't be a mere rookie like you. No, no. Slowly but surely, Kai's entire being started turning into red, similar to when he absorbed other masters' chi, with the difference of only being the color. As soon as it covered him whole, instead of turning into a stone like what is supposed to happen, Kai's body turned into a small red ball of light before entering Jin's body. Jin closed his eyes, feeling the unprecedented strength on his body. The small red ball of energy was like a drop in a water as it caused red ripples throughout Jin's body when he absorbed it. Ch37, the fight is over. Back in the mortal realm, Master Shifu and the Furious Five stood in front of a large clearing where cherry petals were lying on the ground, forming a yin-yang symbol. What do we do now, Master? It's been an hour. Monkey worriedly said as Master Shifu's expression was grim, however he was still holding hope. No, Monkey. We must not lose hope. We have to trust Jin. Master Shifu stated. Meanwhile, Tigress just stared at the yin-yang symbol with a complicated expression. Her eyes were unfocused as there are things going on inside her mind right now. Is Jin still alive? Where is Jin and how did his fight with Kai go? As everyone has different opinions on the outcome of the fight, the green jade stones containing started shaking involuntarily. Monkey, who was holding them, was stunned and quickly dropped the jade stones on the ground before each of the jade stones flashed in green light, freeing the masters inside. However, there seems to be a problem as there are also some masters who were supposed to be in the spirit realm but now they are freed in the mortal realm. Among these masters was someone Master Shifu knows well. It feels good to be back. And stronger than usual, isn't it, Shifu? Tai Lung grinned as he breathed in the fresh air. His eyes show unprecedented anger and relief. Just as Master Shifu was preparing to handle. Master, let me handle him. Tigress stepped forward as she cracked her knuckles. You? What? Do you want a rematch and lose again? Where is your dragon warrior? He's not here to stop me now, eh? Let me guess, he's dead and dot. Just as Tai Lung was mocking and grinning, he failed to perceive the movement of Tigress, and even if he did, it would be too late as Tigress's paw has already smashed on his chest. Boom! Blown away, Tai Lung crashed through many trees before using his claws to stab the ground and stop his momentum, however this gave time for Tigress to come up to him and kick him on his head. Raising his arms, Tai Lung was confident in defending himself from Tigress's kick, not noticing the golden hue on her foot. Boom! A large golden shock wave occurs as Tai Lung weakly knelt on the ground, feeling a bit suffocated and hard to breathe. How is that for a rematch? Tigress smirked as her paw released her claws, intending to finish him off. Shifu! Hearing someone calling his name, Master Shifu turned around and was faced with a large elephant wearing regal robes. Ah! Master Elephant! It's been a long time. Master Shifu bowed in respect as Master Elephant also did so. You look old, Shifu. I could still remember back when you still used to climb on my head. Master Elephant chuckled as Master Shifu embarrassingly scratched his beard. It would be fine if he's the only one who heard it, but his students are nearby and they heard Master Elephant's remark. That was 100 years ago, Master Elephant. I'm a different man now, or old man. Master Shifu reasoned. Ah yes. My time in the mortal realm has long come to an end. The last time I remember was facing a bull in the spirit realm. Master Elephant scratched his beard as he watched Tigress's fight with Tai Lung. Is she your student? Master Elephant asked. Both actually, the other one has strayed from his path and went on the dark path. Master Shifu said with regret in his voice. No worries about that, Shifu. I know some masters who have been through the same, you're not the only one. Master Elephant said with a sigh. While peace has ensued in the mortal realm, except for Tai Lung. Though even if he were to be defeated, there are literally other masters nearby ready to stop Kai. Devil Jin finally sighed in relief as his horn slowly pulled itself back to his temples while the tattoos on his body faded away. The red slit in the middle of his forehead also closed itself like an eye. Crunch! The pure black wings on his back also decreased size before going back inside the two large wounds on his back before it closes. Seriously, why does my wing part hurt so much? Jin complained as he rubbed his back shoulder where the large closed-up wound resides. After that, only then did Jin notice that the area has changed tremendously as the previous green-colored spirit realm has changed to a scarlet-red one. I remember when Po defeated Kai, it turned into yellow instead of red. Does it perhaps change according to the chi of someone inside the realm? Jin pondered to himself, not noticing the small boulder with a large blossom peach tree slowly floating near him. I knew you would defeat him. Suddenly, Jin heard a familiar voice behind him. Turning around, Jin saw Master Oogway sitting in a meditative position while his jade cane resides on his lap. Master Oogway. You left quite a troublesome foe to me. Instead of greeting him as what he is supposed to do, Jin directly complained much to Master Oogway's amusement. You must accept that the mistakes of the past can only be resolved in the future. Kai is my mistake and you are my future. Master Oogway resolutely said. So in simple terms, I'm just here to clear up your mess. Jin asked with a deadpan expression. Although Oogway didn't respond, Jin felt like his silence meant yes, making Jin's face twitch. So, are you here to give me more of your words of wisdom? Jin asked after a moment of silence. Nope. Master Oogway answered while popping the pea. What? So, he's not gonna give me his jade cane like how he gave it to Po in the original? I thought he had bigger ones. Jin grumbled inside his mind as Master Oogway chuckled. Why bother for something as small as this when you already have something bigger on your own? Master Oogway said while hinting at the two red blades with chains attached on Jin's waist. This was originally Kai's weapon, however, after Jin absorbed Kai's chi and got a hold of the blades, the color changed from green to red, suiting his red like lightning chi. Oh! Jin coughed, not wanting to admit he got a bit greedy. If he were an angel now, he would have long fallen from grace. Wait, now that I think about it. How come I didn't transform into an angel? Or did I already? Jin wondered to himself and decided to ask God about it later. Anyways, he'd soon be leaving here and go into another world, because not only got a full percentage of his template but he also defeated the god of this universe, albeit it was a drinking battle, but hey. A win is a win, right? It doesn't matter how and what, as long as you win and that's enough. So, how do I get out of here then? Jin asked Master Oogway, although he watched how Po did it, but Jin is sure it is not that easy. You can leave whenever you want. Switching between realms requires an excessive amount of chi and I could tell yours are large enough. Master Oogway said before closing his eyes. Alright, so I just need to surge my chi, right? Jin said to himself before holding the blades on each of his hands. Holding it actually helps Jin control his chi better, which must be the reason why Kai and Oogway had their own weapons. I should definitely give it a name later. After that, Jin flipped his blades by the chains, similar to how Kai does it whenever he makes his entrance. Clang! Hearing the chains rattle, Jin's eyes slightly glowed in red as with a slight pull of the chains, the handles of the blades went back to his hand. It's just like Wuxi finger hold. I just need to replicate that feeling. Fwazh. It didn't take long for Jin to be swarmed by red chi that looks and moves like water. In just a few seconds, Jin's surrounded by a large red ball that constantly surges as time goes on. Back to the mortal realm, Tai Lung laid unconscious underneath Tigress's feet as she sighed in relief. It has always been one of her regrets for losing against Tai Lung when she was decisive in defeating him back then. But now things have changed, with months of training and days of sparring with Jin has greatly improved her battle experience. While everyone was busy by their own matters, some masters who originally belonged in the mortal realm, gave their gratitude before going back to their place. Obviously, Master Shifu didn't hold them back as he knows that each master has their own place and citizens to protect and without their presence would cause chaos among their place. Amidst waiting, something finally happened at the place where the yin-yang symbol lays. Fwasi. A swirling huge red ball of chi with red lightning crackling from time to time appeared in the middle. What's going on? What an abundant amount of chi! As a chi user, Master Shifu and Master Elephant could sense chi just by looking at it. So what Master Elephant said is true, staring at the huge ball of chi is like staring at a large mass of raw chi that could surpass tens of Master's chi. The swirling red ball of chi then exploded in a shockwave, affecting everyone's feelings. Most of them could feel slight pain trickling on their skin, though not that much. Staring at the middle of the opening, they could see a handsome black-haired man wearing nothing on his upper body, showing the large scar on his chest while wearing black pants with a tinge of red flame as a design. His hands were wearing red and black gloves that reached up to his elbow. The most noticeable thing on him was the red blades crackling with red lightning that rests on his hand. Jin! Tigress happily and excitedly called out as she ignored the others' stares and ran up to Jin. Softly landing on the ground, Jin was tempted to stretch his body when an orange fur ball suddenly smashed herself into his chest. You're back! Jin could hear Tigress's muffled voice on his chest. Hugging her back, Jin warmly smiled and said, "Well, I can't leave my little kitty alone, right? Dash underscore 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 underscore. I'll say it in advance, I might not be able to publish a chapter for tomorrow, you already know the reason, school problems. I'm in 12th grade, already going to enter college. I can't even imagine what will happen to my writing career once I entered college, lol. Ch 38, A Night of Passion Lemon. After sending the spirit masters back to the spirit world, which took quite a lot of Jin's chi, but he'll manage and recover it by tomorrow. The moment Master Shifu learned that Jin has mastered chi and defeated Kai, he put down his pride and asked Jin to be his new teacher, along with the rest of the Furious Five. Obviously, Jin didn't reject them, only an idiot would. But first, he needs to fetch Po first. He'd probably learned the way of being a panda by now, which is Jin's true purpose on why he sent Po on the trip along with his father Li Shen. He knows that family bonding is the most important in the world, especially to Po, who lost his real family at a very early age. So, Jin sent Crane to fetch him. While the night finally dawned upon them, the citizens of Valley all cheered in delight as none of their homes was destroyed, and in order to thank their protectors, they launched a feast to everyone, especially the Furious Five and Master along with the Dragon Warrior Jin. Dragon Warrior! I love you! Walking towards the valley with Tigress holding into his arms like a loving wife, a small bunny expressed her feelings to Jin, which he just chuckled and patted the bunny's head. Looks like everyone loves you, hey. Tigress smiled at this and whispered to him. Really? I wonder if that everyone includes you. Jin whispered back as he smiled after seeing Tigress smile and nod her head. I think I'm the first person to love you, right? Tigress asked, making Jin chuckled as he responded. Well, if you exclude my parents then yes, you're the first person to love me. Just as Jin said those words, Tigress suddenly got nervous. What's wrong? Jin noticed this and expressed his concerns to her. It's nothing. It's just that, would your parents accept me? Tigress nervously asked him. Definitely no, heck they might even call animal security on you. Though, I could understand them. Jin truthfully answered, however only in his mind, as it would definitely hurt Tigress's feelings if he said that out loud. I'm sure they would, but I don't think you should meet them, they're kinda not ready yet. Jin lied through his teeth, however he only lied this time just to protect her feelings, he doesn't have the intention to hurt her by lying. Maybe if she could turn into a human or something then there would be no problem. I remember my mother forcing me to have children just so she could have grandkids that she could spoil before she dies. Jin said to himself as he smiled when he reminisced about his past. What got you smiling like that? Tigress noticed his smile and couldn't help but ask. I just remember that my mother always wanted a grandkid and kept convincing me to bear a child for her to spoil. Jin explained to her as he chuckled. Hearing about his mother, Tigress also laughed along with him as she remarked. She sounds like a great woman. Yes, she is. Jin smiled and agreed. Just in time, they finally arrived at the feast location. Seeing the abundant foods and drinks along with hundreds of pigs, bunnies, goose, and many more. The dragon warrior has arrived. A large pig loudly announced as everyone started cheering and clapping their hands, chanting Jin's name in their mouths. They love me. Jin felt touched as he could see a crowd chanting his name as if it was some kind of concert back in his world. Jin was tempted to yell Iu. Like what Freddie Mercury did in his concert but resisted as he didn't want to embarrass himself if they didn't yell after him. A few minutes later, Jin was greeted by almost everyone, some old ladies pinching his cheeks like he is their grandson. Fortunately, Tigress was by his side so no one attempted to flirt with him lest they attract the wrath of a tigress. It took hours before the feast was depleted, no alcohol was consumed as the Valley of Peace preferred tea and water. Po also arrived with Crane a few hours earlier, so he managed to join the feast and beat Li Shen's record of dumplings eating contest. As the feast ended, Jin and the Furious Six went back to the Jade Palace. Master Shifu was the earliest one to go back as he prefers to meditate instead of having fun. After cleaning himself in the waterfalls, Jin walked back to his new room, his newly requested room that is bigger and has more space than his previous room. However, he was surprised when he opened his door just to see Tigress in her nightrobe lying on the right side of his bed. Kitty. At this time, Jin has long accustomed calling Tigress as Little Kitty or just Kitty, which she didn't refuse and in fact, liked it. Can I sleep here? Tigress muttered while looking at him with a strange glint in her eyes. Sure. Jin didn't see why he should refuse so he agreed and went under the blanket with her. With both of them facing each other, their skins touching, they could feel each other's breaths. Jin was trying his best to sleep however, Tigress's breath against him was keeping him awake. Opening his eyes, he almost got a heart attack after seeing Tigress's hazy gaze over him. Due to the dark environment, Tigress's purple eyes were shining as if some predator found her prey. Tigress! Jin called out for her as he gulped. There's a bad premonition inside his mind the moment he sees Tigress's gaze. Jin, do you know what season it is today? After a moment of silence, Tigress finally spoke by asking a question first, however she seems to be breathing heavily while her body twitches slightly. Season? Is it summer? I mean, it's kinda getting hot in the day. Jin answered honestly, however Tigress growled and suddenly moved her body and sat on his waist, her left shoulder showing slightly as her robe slipped off. Wrong, it's mating season. Tigress showed a grin as she answered while her hands were taking off her robe, showing her exposed breast to Jin. Jin was simply dumbfounded at first before inhaling and exhaling. I see. I was wrong, it is indeed your mating season. As soon as Jin was in the middle of speaking, he suddenly flipped her over and spread her legs before pushing his waist in the middle of her legs. However, I think it's also my mating season. Jin whispered with ragged breaths as he slowly took his pants off as he was already wearing nothing on his upper body. Shivering from the chilling whisper on her ear, Tigress saw Jin's entire body muscles being highlighted thanks to the moonlight that is creeping by the window. Fully taking off his pants, Tigress could finally see his hard rock cock that towers over her. Thanks to watching educational porn in his past life, Jin knows it would be hard to insert his cock inside if there's no lubricant. So, they'll naturally do the traditional way. Stepping over near her sides, Jin then kneeled and pointed his hard rock cock in front of Tigress's face. Bon appétit! Jin whispers as Tigress knows the assignment and opens her mouth. Taking the advantage, Jin pushed his waist slightly, filling Tigress's mouth with his cock. Glurg! Inch by inch, Tigress's mouth was taking his cock like a champ. Finally inserting his entire cock inside, Tigress then started bobbing her head, trying her best to avoid having her canines touching Jin's shaft. She might be new to this, but there are sex educational scrolls in the library where she used to read in her free time. Thanks to that, Tigress knows everything about baby making in different kinds of species, including her kind. Glop, X10. Tigress's mouth was filled with his cock as her tongue was licking the head inside like some kind of lollipop, making Jin grunt in pleasure. Just when Jin felt like he was about to come, he immediately stopped Tigress and took out his wet cock out of her mouth before going back to the missionary position and pointed the tip of his cock in her hole. Thanks to the blowjob, Jin wasn't the only one wet in their private area, as Tigress was also wet for some unknown reason. You ready? As a gentleman, Jin asked for permission first before inserting in after getting a nod from Tigress. HNNM, clutching the bed sheets, Tigress moaned in both pain and pleasure as blood trickled from her pussy, indicating that she's no longer a virgin. Jin was also feeling the same euphoria and pleasure as he slowly pushed and pulled his waist, making his cock enter and leave her pussy and go on. Damn! I feel a bit of hair in my balls, but it feels good as it's tickling me. Jin said to himself inside his mind as his pace continued and became faster and faster as time went on. Flap, X69. Piak. Naturally, Tigress, who was trying her best to hold back her moans, cannot hold it anymore and released a loud moan that resonates across the room. Thankfully, Jin's room was actually a bit far from the Jade Palace, as he literally has his own home in the middle of the forest. Nay, instead of the usual moan like a human woman, Tigress's moans were akin to a cat meowing. As time went on, Jin could finally feel his cum surging out, so with a little warning he hastened his pace, making the sounds of their flesh slapping with each other more faster. Pack, X100. I'm going to see *M. Jin gave a little warning. He was tempted to pull it out, however, Tigress's legs were locking his waist, giving him no choice but to release it inside her womb. Splurt! Arcing her back, Tigress released one last loud moan before passing out on the bed. Meanwhile, Jin's cock was about to turn hard again if it wasn't for him quickly covering Tigress's seductive body with a quilt, as he wanted to try and smoke after the intense workout. Unfortunately, cigarettes don't exist in this world yet, so Jin was left with no choice but to sleep next to Tigress and hug her by putting her head by his chest. Dash underscore 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 underscore. This isn't my first time writing a lemon, however I'm not that good at writing lemons yet. CH39, leaving. The morning rises, the sunlight seeping through the window, spotlighting the naked bodies on the bed. When the sunlight shone on their faces, Jin was the first one to wake up and saw the sprawled sheets on the bed combined with their sweats and cum. Shouldn't we marry first before having our first honeymoon? Meh, the traditions and customs are different here anyway. Jin said to himself before noticing the sleeping Tigress beside him. Cannot help, Jin extended his hand forward and caressed Tigress's head before moving his hand towards her neck. Surprisingly purring, Tigress unconsciously raised her head, allowing more space for Jin to scratch her neck. Smiling, Jin intensified the scratching, and before he knew it, Tigress's body was already clinging over his, pressing her naked body over him. Jin could feel her erect nipples smashing against his chest. Hum. Just as Tigress was succumbing to the pleasure, her eyes suddenly opened in surprise as she noticed that Jin was looking over her while his hand was on her neck. Well, hello there, sleeping beauty. How's the night? Whispering to her, Tigress blushed slightly as she remembered about last night's events before looking away from him. Seriously? After everything we've done yesterday? Jin can't help but chuckle at her reaction as his hand became free after she turned her head away. Closing over her, Jin spooned her by his arms before burying his head on her neck, sniffing her nape. Let's stay like this for a while and then let's clean ourselves. Jin said after he felt like she wanted to get up out of the bed due to embarrassment. After Tigress nodded her head, Jin closed his eyes once again, feeling up their bodies sticking to each other. After a whole hour had passed, it was time to get up, and so they did. Jin didn't bother to pick up their clothes before dragging Tigress and running outside as they dipped inside the river. As their place was far away from the Jade Palace, no one would be able to peek at them, and even if they did, Jin would surely beat them up and take their minuscule energy. Splash! Washing his body first, Jin then grabbed the soap and started cleaning himself. Tigress was just right beside him, immersing herself in the cold waters. Soon after Jin was finished, instead of handing the soap to Tigress, he approached her and rubbed the soap over her body. What are you doing? Jay, just give me the soap. Tigress stuttered as she tried to take the soap away from his hands. However, Jin was already expecting this, so he dodged her and continued washing every nook and cranny of her body. Lifting her breasts, Jin rubbed the soap under her boobs before raising her armpits and also washed them. At this moment, Tigress was a blushing mess and wished she could end this embarrassing situation right now. Unfortunately for her, Jin won't let her go that easily, after leaving him still hard last night. Suffer, my little kitty. Jin evilly laughed inside his mind. Hey, don't you think we should marry? After wiping themselves and going back to the wooden house to find some spare clothes, Jin asked Tigress as they walked inside. Tigress suddenly stopped in her tracks and turned her eyes at Jin, staring at him with a raised eyebrow. What? Did I say something wrong? Confused, Jin asked about her sudden frowning. Didn't we just get married last night? Tigress said, further confusion. Jin. Last night? Didn't we just have sex last night? Sex means marry. Tigress finally answered the key to his confusion. Wait, what? Jin yelled in shock. How the hell did he not know of this? Is the tradition in this world really that different from his past life? Are you against it? With a strange glow in her eyes, Tigress's emotionless voice creeped Jin out. No. No, it's just that in my place we have a different tradition in marrying someone. Jin said as the strange glint on Tigress's eyes disappeared as she tilted her head sideways in confusion. Really? Then how do you think we should marry then? Tigress asked. Jin then proceeded to tell her about the marriage in his past world and what would happen next. I see. This priest. Where can we find one? Tigress asked as she seemed to be interested in the marriage that Jin told her. That's the problem, I don't think priests exist here. I could marry you both. Suddenly, they both heard a voice behind them, and when they looked back, they saw God sitting on the large rock with a smile on his face. You? Tigress said while Jin was wide-eyed in shock. God would be the priest? Who the fuck would refuse that? I'm in. Jin said to himself as he quickly nodded his head like some kind of chicken pecking his head. Yes please. There would be no problem. Hearing Jin's eager voice, Tigress shrugged her shoulders and decided to go with the flow. Good. Then the date of the marriage would be before you go into another world. God clapped his hands happily and announced. How would we know if we're going to leave for another world? Jin asked as God answered. It's easy, just call my name and I would know what to do, get it? Seeing Jin and Tigress nod their heads, God smiled in contentment before waving his hand goodbye. Well, see you all later. Guys, where's Tigress and Jin? I haven't seen them yet this morning. They're usually the first ones to wake up and train, right? After meeting up in the training halls, Viper noticed the absence of two persons. I didn't find her in her room and Jin too. Monkey informed. Maybe they got lost yesterday. Mantis chimed in. Guys, relax. We shouldn't worry about them. Crane assured them. In fact, he was flying last night when he saw Tigress entering a wooden house in the middle of the forest, and Jin soon followed after a few minutes. As someone who has experience in this kind of field, Crane knows what would happen in that house, so he immediately went back to his room and slept without bothering to inform anyone on what he had seen. What's the problem, guys? I think I just heard our name. Suddenly, Jin and Tigress appeared with their hands intertwined with each other. Ugh, every time I see them, it reminds me that I should find myself a partner. Monkey dejectedly said with slumped shoulders. Where have you guys been? Viper worriedly asked as she slithered towards them. It's nothing, we just sparred as usual, that's all. Tigress said. Yes, we sparred in bed, it's nothing special. Jin said inside his head, not daring to say out loud lest Tigress would elbow his side. I see. Viper nodded her head in understanding. Crane, can you call Master Shifu? We have an announcement to make. Jin asked Crane, who nodded his head before flying, grumbling inside his mind as he suddenly became both a courier and a messenger. What's the announcement about? Po asked. Let's wait for Master Shifu first. Jin answered. After a few minutes, Crane was back along with Master Shifu. What's the problem? If this is about monkeys missing cookies again, I wow. Just as Master Shifu was in the middle of speaking nonsense, Jin stated the announcement. We have decided to leave Jade Palace. Jin announced while Tigress nodded her head by his side as an indication that she already agreed to it. What? Out of everyone, Master Shifu was the most shocked. We're not totally leaving. We just have decided to explore the world more. Like how Oogway did before he founded Kung Fu. Jin has already made up a good enough reason that even Master Shifu would agree. I see. It's only natural for masters like you to explore the world, sometimes staying in one place would shackle and limit your potential. Fine, I agree with this. Hopefully, you both come back whenever you have the time, understood? Master Shifu nodded his head and agreed as Jin and Tigress both bowed their heads to him. Thank you, Master. Despite being stronger than Shifu, Jin still liked to call him Master out of respect and also for being the reason why he became a master in the first place. Geez, I would be the only girl left in the Jade Palace? Talk about being a princess. Viper chuckled. Thank you everyone, and yes, we would come back whenever we have the time. Jin thanked them first before agreeing to what Master Shifu said earlier. Actually, traveling the world was a lie to cover up that they're leaving for another world, but they don't have to know that. There's a reason why Jin has agreed to leave the Kung Fu Panda world for a new world. That is because the plot of the Kung Fu Panda had ended, or at least that's what he thought, as Jin is not sure if there would be a fourth Kung Fu Panda movie. And also, he has already achieved a full 100% in his Jin Kazama template, it would be a waste if he didn't get another template sooner. Are you sure about leaving? As they packed their bags for the upcoming journey, Jin asked Tigress for the umpteenth time. Seriously, Jin? You kept asking me this, are you sure you want me to go with you? Tigress gave him a glance and said. No, of course not. I just thought that leaving your home would be hard, I mean. I experienced the same thing, and if it wasn't for God, then perhaps we wouldn't have met. Jin said while hesitating in the middle of his sentence. It's fine to leave this world. Aside from Master Shifu and the Furious Five, I don't have that much attachment to this world, especially since I've always been training my whole life, not bothering to make acquaintances with other people. Tigress replied as Jin nodded his head before offering his hand for her to take after he's done packing his bag. Smiling warmly, Tigress grabbed his hand and gripped it as Jin raised his head in the air and called out. God. Fwasi. With a single sentence, both Jin and Tigress disappeared in a flash of light. Ch40, Marriage. Inside the white space, things were a bit different as there were several decorations in a huge church out of nowhere, making it stand out. Inside the church, both Jin and Tigress suddenly appeared in a flash of white light. There was no one in the church except for them and God, who was standing in the middle front of the church, wearing a priest's outfit. As they opened their eyes, Tigress was confused about the place while Jin felt like it was a bit familiar. Isn't this a church? Jin muttered out loud. Yes, yes it is. God answered with a smile as Jin and Tigress's attention turned to him. God. Tigress bowed her head in respect. Before coming here, Jin told her about who God is, and knowing that he's the creator of everything, Tigress's respect for him went very high. Isn't this a bit too early? Shouldn't we rest first? Jin indeed felt it was a bit early. He's expecting God to be sitting in his usual chair welcoming him and asking him when he wants to start the marriage. Nope. It isn't that fast, and besides, the readers can't wait for you to go to the next world. God muttered as he looked at you. What? Jin felt like God mumbled the last few words, so he didn't hear it completely. Nothing. God smiled and said before snapping his fingers, turning their outfits into bride and groom. Whoa! Tigress muttered in surprise as she stared at her white gown and couldn't help but grow to like it. Meanwhile, Jin just nervously inhaled and exhaled. Everything was so fast, and he's going to get married without his parents knowing. Hopefully they won't mind it. Jin muttered inside his head as God stated his words. Dear brothers and sisters, we have come together in my presence to witness and bless the joining together of this man and this woman in holy matrimony. The covenant of marriage was established by none other than me, and my Son Jesus Christ adorned this manner of life by his presence. In this sacred ceremony, Jin and Tigress come to be united in the love they share. They now ask for your blessing, that they may be strengthened for their life together. Dear Jin and Tigress, have you come here freely and without reservation to give yourselves to each other in marriage? Just respond, I have. God said while whispering the last sentence to Tigress as she doesn't know what to do. Tigress nodded her head and spoke in unison with Jin. I have. Will you love and honor each other as husband and wife for the rest of your lives? God continued. I will. Both Tigress and Jin said. Good, then you may now both have your kiss. God said in a holy manner before walking off. After seeing God walk away, Jin and Tigress didn't hesitate before kissing each other. They've long played with their bodies and kissed each other, so there's no need to become shy in kissing after marriage. So, are you both ready for another world? God asked them after they wore their previous outfits. Yes. Jin answered while Tigress nodded beside him. Before we proceed, I would like to give my gift for your marriage. Since in the next world it would be weird for Tigress to walk among humans, I would give her the gift. God said before waving his hand towards Tigress. Meanwhile, Tigress's body slowly changed, her furs slowly retracted, showing her delicate tan skin, her furs on her head turned into an orange short hair that fits Tigress's image. Her bust remained the same. Beautiful. Jin muttered as his blood splurted out of his nose before quickly wiping them off. Alright, that's all for my gift. It's time for you both to depart, brace yourselves. God said before snapping his fingers. Actually he could just do it without snapping his fingers, however, he just wanted to add an effect to make it cooler. Intertwining their hands, both Jin and Tigress suddenly saw their surroundings changing from the white space earlier to black space with the stars twinkling upon them. It's beautiful. Tigress muttered as she looked around. Wanna know something more beautiful? Jin asked, getting the attention of Tigress as she asked him. What is it? The person beside me. Jin said with a smile. Tigress playfully punches his chest, thankfully she's already immune to Jin's teasings, so she won't be a blushing mess every time he teases her. Soon, both of them finally landed on the grassy grass, surrounded by lush trees and animals. While Jin searched for a nearby civilization so he could know what world they were dropped off, Tigress quickly went on to find a source of water. Thankfully, Tigress found a river just behind a tree and rushed over in all fours, which looked weird. Thankfully, Jin was keeping an eye on her, so the moment he saw her search for the river, he swiftly followed her until they arrived. I look more like your kind. Tigress muttered as she touched her cheek, and when she did, she noticed how small her hands became, so she also extended her to take a better look. It looks small, but cute. Tigress tilted her head as she described the feeling she felt as she observed her new appearance. And I have no fur. I feel like I'm naked. Tigress said, a bit uncomfortable in her new appearance. No worries, in time you'll adapt to your new body. How about we have a go and see if you could fight efficiently despite having a new body? Jin said as he assumed a stance, challenging her to a battle. Smirking, Tigress didn't bother assuming a stance and quickly attacked Jin. However, before she could even take 5 steps, she suddenly tripped on a stuck pebble and fell on the ground with her face facing the front. Thud. Looking at the fallen Tigress, Jin almost released a laugh, but thankfully, he concealed it, or else Tigress would definitely beat him up no matter where and when. Here, let me help you. Jin said before approaching her and helping her stand back in her 2 feet. For the next few hours, Jin proceeded to help her get used to her body. Thankfully, it didn't take long. During the process, Jin felt like he was teaching a baby on his way to walk. Tigress kept on stabbing her toes on some small stuck pebbles or on a tree root. According to her, she was used to having a large paw as her feet, so she rarely cares on the path that she's walking on. Can you walk properly now? Jin asked and saw Tigress nod her head, so he let go of her elbow. After a few tries, she didn't trip herself anymore. Let's spare the sparring in the future until you completely get used to this new body. Jin said as Tigress couldn't agree more. She felt huge embarrassment earlier for tripping in front of Jin, and she vowed to never repeat it again. Let's go and search for some people. Jin said before walking around without any sense of direction, followed by Tigress. After a few times of resting, Jin and Tigress found a tall tower that looked completely abandoned, after entering a covered entrance of a cave that leads them here. The tower was very tall and behind it was a waterfall. Wanna go and take a look? Jin asked Tigress, making her nod her head as she was also curious on the lone tower in the middle of the forest. Approaching the tower, Jin and Tigress tried to look for the entrance, however, they found nothing except for an open window on top of the tower. Wanna climb? Without a choice, Jin and Tigress could do nothing but climb. I can't climb yet. Tigress said with a hint of embarrassment. No problem, just ride on my back. Jin said before slightly crouching so Tigress could climb on his back. Make sure you hug my neck and don't let go. Also, put your legs over my waist. After giving instructions to Tigress, she did as he told and she's finally clinging on his back. Alright, let's go. Jin said before gripping on a rock attached to the tower and used this so he could lift himself and step on one of the extended bricks. Looking up, Jin saw that it would take a while to climb at this pace, so he decided to hasten a bit. Swish! Bending his knees, Jin jumped and used his quick reflexes to grab one of the bricks and step on another, quickly crossing at least a while 5 feet tall in that single jump. Jin then continued jumping and gripping on bricks before eventually arriving at the open window. During the process, Tigress stayed true to his words and hugged his neck as if her life depended on it. Thankfully, she doesn't weigh that much, so it was no hassle on her riding his back. Taking a peek inside, Jin saw that it was decorated as a room, as if someone was living here. Why does this look familiar? Jin wondered to himself before deciding to enter so he could get the answers to his question. Sneakily entering, the moment Jin stepped on the floor, Tigress also released her hug on Jin and landed on the floor. Hello! Calling out, Jin yelled, but no one responded. Either the tower just got recently abandoned or the owner is hiding somewhere. Jin said to himself. Sniff. Sniffing in the air, Tigress was glad she still has her senses, so when she sniffed in the air, she could already tell that someone was hiding behind the curtain. Tapping on Jin's shoulder, and when she got his attention, she then pointed her finger towards the curtain. Soon, whoever is behind that curtain will be revealed. Ch41, a whole new world. Slowly approaching the curtain, Jin then swiped his hand over the curtain, revealing a beautiful blonde-haired woman holding a frying pan, while Chameleon was hidden on top of her shoulder, blending within the surrounding. What's unusual about her was the long blonde hair that she's carrying on her arms. Rapunzel. This is the Tangled World. After seeing her, Jin already knew what world they were put in. Stop there. I'm not afraid to use this thing. Rapunzel threatened cutely as she raised her frying pan with a brave expression. Even the chameleon has a fierce expression. Both Jin and Tigress just stared at her dumbfoundedly before Jin raised his hands in surrender and said. We're not here to hurt you, don't worry. He said. Really? Rapunzel smiled slightly and lowered her frying pan, making Jin facepalm himself at such naivety. Just because he said he's not here to hurt her doesn't mean she should lower her guard, okay? Phew. I thought you guys were here to hurt me. Rapunzel wiped the sweat off her forehead as she placed her frying pan down on the ground. So, what's your name? Although Jin already knows her, he can't just call her by her name, which would make Rapunzel suspicious of him, not to mention Tigress. My name is Rapunzel, it's what my mother named me. How about you guys? With an innocent smile, Rapunzel introduced herself before asking about theirs. I'm Jin Kazama, this is my wife, Tigress. Jin first introduced himself before introducing Tigress, proudly calling her his wife while Tigress just chuckled. You guys are married. Wow. My mother always tells me about marriage and how bad it is because it could break your heart from your parents apart, so she always tells me not to marry. Rapunzel explained, tucking her beautiful blonde hair behind her ear. Both Jin and Tigress just looked at each other as suspicion was rising in Tigress's heart. What are you doing here in this tower anyways? Are you alone here? Tigress changed the subject and asked. She has been curious and can't help but ask. Me? I live here with my mother. Rapunzel said with a shrug. And where's your mother? Tigress raised her eyebrow and asked another question. She is out there gathering food for me. Rapunzel answered as she sat on a stool and started brushing her extremely long hair. Finally gathering the courage, Tigress finally asked her last question that truly piqued her curiosity. What's with the hair? Is it natural or? Tigress slowly stopped as Rapunzel beamed in excitement and replied. My mother said I was born with this magical hair. She told me that people out there want to hurt me because of this hair, so she put me here to keep me safe from them. As Rapunzel spoke, Tigress squinted her eyes. She could smell the deceit and manipulation here. Just as Tigress wanted to tell her that Rapunzel's mother was lying to her, Jin elbowed her, and when he got her attention, he shook his head. They have no proof yet and just tell Rapunzel that her beloved mother is lying, someone that she trusted for years. It would make her hostile to them, so unless they found proof, they can't tell her that her mother is lying to her. She sounds like a caring woman. Jin lied through his teeth as Rapunzel nodded her head excitedly. Wanna try to go out? I assure you, it's more fun outside than here. Jin said, although they just met, Jin knows about Rapunzel and as a human, he obviously wanted to give justice to her. Outside, world, but isn't it dangerous outside? Full of corrupt and selfish people. Rapunzel shuddered as Het Pet Gecko also did so by shivering. However, deep inside her mind, she remembers how mundane her life is in this lonely tower. She's always wondered when her mother will let her go into the outside world. She has so many things she wanted to see outside, especially one thing. Which are the lights that she always sees outside in the sky during her birthday each year? See, even Pascal agrees. Rapunzel tried to reason, not because she doesn't want to but because she doesn't want to disobey her mother. Her mother always tells her not to go outside as it is dangerous and everything bad. Are you sure about that? If you don't want it then we would take our leave, thanks for keeping us company, Rapunzel. I hope we meet again. Tigress coldly said, a bit annoyed that Rapunzel was too obedient to her mother that doesn't even want to let her own daughter discover and explore the world. Just as Tigress was leaving, Jin was hesitant at first before shrugging his shoulders and decided to follow her. Anyways, he just met Rapunzel anyway, and just because he knows her doesn't mean he'll force himself in her life, and besides, in the movie someone would come here and convince her himself, so there's no need to bother anymore. Seeing the two leave, Rapunzel's pace on brushing her hair slowed down a bit as she stared down on the ground. The day after tomorrow would be her birthday and she wanted to ask permission from her mother to allow her to go outside. She then saw her chameleon friend, Pascal, looking at her eyes, as if telling her that it was her loss. Though he might seem scared earlier, Pascal wasn't scared because of the outside world, but because he remembered Rapunzel's strict and stern mother earlier, which is why he shivered. Suddenly being filled with determination, Rapunzel turned to look at Tigress and Jin, who were on the window, ready to climb back down. Wait! Without hesitation, she yelled at them while putting her hands forward, adding some effect on what she wanted. Stopping in their tracks, Jin turned around while Tigress surprisingly smiled, as if it was according to her plan. I'll come with you. If my mother discovers it, I could just give her a reason. I mean, she's my mother, I'm sure she wouldn't be that angry with me. Rapunzel said as she walked over the curtain where she hid earlier and released it, showing the large art in the wall. The art shows bright light illuminating the sky while Rapunzel sat on top of a tree, gazing at the night sky with warm expression. I've always wanted to see the lights that appears on my birthday. She explained as she caressed the art and turned her eyes back to Jin and Tigress. That's why I want to come with you, please help me. Help me find these lights. Rapunzel said and was about to now when Tigress dashed towards her in a second and held her shoulders. You don't have to bow, not to anyone, even us. Only bow to someone you deeply respect, not someone you just met. Tigress said, and after Rapunzel nodded with shock in her face, she released her hand over her shoulder, and that's when Rapunzel started barraging her with questions. How did you do that? How fast are you? Are the people also that fast? Can you teach me? While Tigress was being barraged by the questions, Jin was talking to a certain someone. Someone he talked with a long time ago. Tisk, looks like you survived that world. My dear template system, you're back. Jin greeted the system, as if he was talking to an old friend. Yeah, anyways. I have many things to do, so here's your template for this world. After the system said that, Jin heard some mechanical sounds and hammer hitting a nail before hearing a ka-ching. Congratulations! You got the template of Uncle Iroh. Looks like luck is shining upon you, kid. Good luck, I hope you die in this world, so I would have one less responsibility. Soon after he dropped those words, Jin didn't hear from him anymore except for the screen in front of him. Uncle Iroh template, 1%. Seeing the template, Jin can't help but smile to himself as he feels a surging feeling inside him, boiling his blood. It's just a single percent and I already felt I could manipulate fire. I thought I would have to at least get to 10% before I could get Iroh's fire-bending powers. He's truly amazing. I wonder what would happen if I got 100%? I haven't seen his full strength even in the Avatar series. Just as Jin was speaking to himself, he suddenly heard Tigress call out to him. Jin. What? Waking up from his deep thoughts, Jin heard Tigress's call out to him and asked after looking at her eyes. We have to go now, Jin. She said that her mother would arrive anytime soon, we need to leave before she arrives. Tigress said while Rapunzel nodded her head behind him, supporting what she said. I see. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go. Jin said as he started walking back to the window. Hold my hand. Tigress said, offering her hand for Rapunzel to take. Just as Rapunzel was about to take it, she suddenly seemed to remember something and said. Ooh. Wait, I just forgot something. She said before walking back and grabbing her frying pan before approaching Tigress again and held her hand. What's with the pan? Tigress asked confusedly. This? It's for protection, my mother says the outside world is dangerous, so I have to protect myself. Rapunzel explained while Tigress just rolled her eyes and decided to let it be. Anyways, there's no way she could hurt someone with that frying pan. Alright, hold on there for a sec, ladies. Jin said before walking on the edge of the window before stepping outside and fell, under the shocked gaze of Rapunzel while Tigress just raised her eyebrow. Whoosh! Suddenly, Jin came back in front of the window, flying with a smile on his face. Oh my gosh, you are flying! Rapunzel shockingly said, even Tigress was no exception. They all wanted to know how the heck Jin flew without any external help. The answer is CH42, Tigress is jealous. A big thank you to Sir Random for making me a cover pic for the fanfic. You guys can check the new cover pic of the fanfic, if you're curious. To Sir Random, if you're reading this, thank you very much for the cover pic. This is actually the first time I was provided one, lol. Dash underscore 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 underscore. It's actually due to the gift that God gave him when he met him after Oogway reveals that he knows about his past life. According to God, that gift was meant for him when he unlocked 100% of his template with Jin Kazama. The gift consists of the entire chi techniques that Master Oogway develops, however he doesn't instantly have mastery on it, he just has the knowledge in his head, which means he has to train the techniques first before he could even use it. What he just did is one of Oogway's techniques, which is to use chi to achieve flight. Apart from all of the techniques of chi that Oogway has, flight is the easiest as you simply have to surround yourself in chi and manipulate it, allowing the chi to carry you wherever you control it. That is so awesome! Rapunzel jumped excitedly as she didn't hesitate to jump over the window towards Jin. As she crossed the gap between them, she immediately spread her arms and legs before hugging her neck and locking her legs around his waist, shocking both Tigress and Jin. Wait! I just learned this technique. True to his words, the moment Rapunzel landed on him and hugged his body in mid-air, Jin started flying uncontrollably like a helicopter losing its engines. Oh shit! Completely losing control, both Jin and Rapunzel started falling down towards the river. Splash! Bam! With his back facing the ground, Jin tanked all the force while Rapunzel luckily survived without a scratch. Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I thought I could J-jump and. Seeing and realizing what she has done, Rapunzel started panicking and backing away as she knew that it was her fault why they fell on the ground. Thankfully, the river wasn't that deep, so Jin just stood and eased back to the surface. It's fine, Rapunzel. I wasn't hurt. Seeing that Rapunzel was truly sorry and panicking, Jin reassured her as Tigress interrupted from behind her. Ahem. You don't have to worry about what happened, Rapunzel. He's more durable than you think. Tigress said, and when Rapunzel turned to face her, she suddenly yelped in shock before grabbing a handful of her long hair and quickly hid behind Jin while pointing her frying pan towards Tigress. Tiger. Rapunzel has read many books about nature that her mother brought to her whenever she comes back, and one of them is a tiger. What? Oh, I think I just surprised you with my appearance? Well, I have to get down on the ground, so I have to go back to my normal form. Tigress said before closing her eyes. Under the stares of Rapunzel and Jin, Tigress slowly went back to her human form. Do you guys have powers too? Rapunzel asked, walking away from Jin's back. Powers? I think you could say so. Tigress said, not sure about it, as she continued. What do you mean by two? Do you have powers too? As Tigress asked her, Rapunzel excitedly responded. Yes. I mean, no. Of course not. I am just a normal human, haha. After realizing her mistake, Rapunzel quickly tried to refute it as she awkwardly tucked her hair behind her ear while looking away from them. She's so bad at lying, was what Jin and Tigress were thinking as they stared at their scene. Well, you don't have to tell us about it, I understand that it's hard to trust someone you just met. So, how about we proceed on our journey? You want to see those lanterns, right? Since we just got here and decided to explore the world, why not bring you with us? The more the better, right? Smoothly changing the subject, Jin stated as his words quickly got Rapunzel's attention. Lanterns? Is that what those beautiful lights in the sky are called? Rapunzel leaned her body towards Jin and asked in curiosity and excitement, not noticing that she was invading Jin's personal space. Well, yeah, those are called lanterns. So, I'll ask you this one more time, Rapunzel. Would you kindly please accompany us on our journey of exploring the world? Jin said while offering his hand to her while Tigress just nodded her head behind her, telling her to agree. Looking at the hand and then at Jin's face, she smiled and took his hand. Yes. Yippee. This is so fun. Oh my gosh, I am such a bad daughter. I disobeyed my mother. Oh my gosh. Look at these grass. They feel so soft. I should probably go back, my mother would be worried about me. I'm never going back. I'm having so much fun. She's quite energetic, isn't she? Tigress said as they stood side by side while watching over Rapunzel changing personalities in a matter of seconds. I think this is her first time in everything. I mean, she's locked and alone in that tower for God knows how many years she has been there without going out. Jin responded to her, as he saw how Rapunzel rolled over the grass, plucked some flowers and even dipped her feet on the mud. Whoever this mother of her is, I'll make sure to teach her a lesson of how to raise a child. Tigress made a goal for herself. How about you save that lesson when we have our child? Jin whispered in her ear, making Tigress blush and playfully punch his arm. I'm being serious here. She said. Me too. Jin responded. After a few minutes of letting Rapunzel have fun, she's now back to being moody and changing her mind to go back to her lonely tower. Mother would definitely be mad at me. Rapunzel said with a muffled voice as her head is buried in her arms. Approaching her, Jin sat next to her while Tigress just let him do his work. He might not be an expert in handling women's emotions, but he could try with Rapunzel, and besides, he got Iroha's template, right? Time to use his wisdom for good. Why are you so afraid of disobeying your mother? Jin asked while Rapunzel wiped off her tears and responded. But she told me to never go outside the tower. Rapunzel emotionally said. That's it. You know, everyone is not meant to be caged in a single place. Just like a bird. Imagine a bird who grew up locked inside a small cage and a few years later you let her out. Would the bird be able to fly? Yes. I mean, it's a bird, right? They know how to fly. Rapunzel answered, not sure about whether she's correct or not. You are wrong, the answer is no, the bird has never experienced how to fly and being trapped in a cage has made the bird think that they're meant to be inside the cage, not outside. So, tell me Rapunzel, would you like to be the bird that doesn't know how to spread her wings and know how to be free? Would you be willing to grow old inside your tower without discovering the beautiful outside world? Each word of Jin made Rapunzel's face brighten slowly as Jin finally decided to strike the iron while it's hot. Tell me, Rapunzel, do you want to learn how to fly? He said with a warm and gentle voice, as Rapunzel smiled widely and said. Yes. Please. Help me learn how to fly. Rapunzel said and stood up, spreading her arms wide and started spinning, trying to replicate a bird. Smiling to himself, Jin knew that his Iroha's template had worked. Good. Then Rapunzel, I will teach you and help you how to fly. Jin stood up and said, even Tigress was smiling warmly behind him as she was leaning on a tree. After their little moment, Jin and the gang had resumed their journey with more excitement and expectations than ever. Although it's a bit unusual that Rapunzel was a bit more clingy to Jin as Tigress decided to stay by his side as her sense of jealousy starts to awaken. Though Jin didn't notice this and so is Rapunzel. She is new to the feeling of love, so she doesn't actually know what she's truly feeling right now. Their journey continued for several hours before finally stumbling on a hard cement road, indicating that following the road leads to a civilization. They followed the trail as Jin was in the front while Tigress was on his left side and Rapunzel is on the right side. Although Tigress was a bit jealous, she discovered that Rapunzel wasn't actually seducing or flirting with her husband. With her naivety and innocence, Tigress could tell that Rapunzel has little to no knowledge about love. Tigress felt pity towards Rapunzel and couldn't help but want to help her. That's right. Aside from teaching Rapunzel's mother a lesson about children, Tigress has also decided to make a goal for herself to help Rapunzel find her true love. Meanwhile, Jin didn't know what was going on inside Tigress's mind as he was focused on the small establishment that is slowly enlarging within his vision due to getting closer to it. It didn't take a few more seconds before they arrived in front of a tilted building that definitely screams that whoever built this building either was blind or has no knowledge in this kind of job. The Snuggly Duckling? Sounds like a funny name. Tigress read the name of the tavern aloud as she chuckled. Duckling? I read about ducklings. I love them. Rapunzel beamed up and happily said as Jin was the only one to know of. Don't judge a tavern with its name. Yes, he just made it up, so what? Ch 43, bar fight. Chatter. Creak. A bunch of gruffy men were having a chat, some were arm wrestling. They suddenly stopped moving when the door suddenly opened. Turning their attention to the one at the door, they saw a black-haired man with a bit of a buffed body while two beautiful women were on his side. "Look, a beautiful woman," a man with a Viking's helmet said while pointing his finger at them. "We can see that," the man behind him replied. "What are you three doing here?" Suddenly, a bald man with a hook as his hand asked while his eyes were glaring at them, trying to intimidate them with a huge and menacing appearance. "Well, we kinda need a map to a nearby kingdom. And also a ride," Jin said, while walking forward, not an ounce of fear on his face as he's literally surrounded by men whose appearances are screaming as danger and thugs. "Map? Ride?" The man with a hook repeated what he wanted and then looked at his fellow men. "And why should we give you those?" the man with the hook said while pointing his hook at him and glared. "Tell me, if I defeat you all here alone, would you give me what I want?" Jin looked around first before staring back at the man with a hook. The moment they heard what Jin said, the thugs all stood up and stopped what they were doing before grabbing their weapons and wearing their armors. "Oh? Are you sure about that? You can't back out now." The man with a hook grinned menacingly. "I should be the one asking you that," Jin said with a smirk before assuming a Kazama-style stance. "Shouldn't we help him?" Rapunzel whispered to Tigress while pointing at Jin being surrounded by scary men. "You mean help them?" Tigress corrected her as she referred to the scary men. What? What happened next surprised everyone, including Rapunzel. Contrary to her expectations where Jin would be beaten badly, instead it was the scary thugs that were beaten by him very badly. Each of them tried to attack Jin by each turn, not wanting to pressure him, however after he defeated 15 of their men, that's when they started going at him in all directions, trying to save their dignity from being defeated by an unknown man who came out of nowhere. Unfortunately for them, Jin was no normal man, what they were facing was an utter monster. His strength and technique were enough to knock them out one by one without even knowing how they were knocked unconscious. His body movements were fluid, evading all of their attacks and slashes. It didn't take long before all of them were down on the ground, even the scary man with a hook got his mustache violently removed and his hook sticking up to his nose, making it bleed a little. "So, where's the map and the ride?" Jin asked with a smile, while those who were still conscious shuddered in fear. There was only one word running in their mind right now. Monster. Suddenly, the man with a hook opened his eyes after hearing what Jin said before standing up and surprisingly kneeled in front of him. "We offer our loyalty to you," the man with a hook said with his head bowed down. "What? No, I don't need your loyalty, just give me the map and a ride and we're leaving. You guys can resume whatever you're doing here." Jin scratched the back of his head and explained. "That's the thing. Our group have always wanted someone strong to lead us to our dreams. And to us, you fit that character very well," the hook man said while the other thugs nodded their heads repeatedly. Jin just confusedly looked at this and can't help but feel how troublesome it would be to lead such a group of thugs. "I refuse. Just give me the map and the ride." Not wanting to stay and argue any longer, Jin started glaring at the hook man as he demanded what he wanted. "Sigh, all right. Hey Attila, grab a map for our dear friend here. As for the horse, it's outside." After saying that, the hook man walked outside the pub while Attila came back and handed him a rolled paper that looked old. "Thanks," Jin said after being handed the paper before following hook man outside the pub. Meanwhile, Rapunzel just stared at Jin's back and couldn't help but feel how attractive he was, especially the strength he showed today. He can't be compared to those stories that she read. Jin is like both the main character and the final villain in a story. Let's go. Although she was weirded out by what the hook man said about offering their loyalty to her husband, she thought that Jin would accept it after all, leading such a bunch of strong men would attract any male with a strong and ambitious personality. Outside the pub, the hook man grabbed a horse's lead, and walked back to Jin as the horse followed the lead. "Here you go. I wish you luck in your journey and if ever you change your mind, we will always be here," the hook man said with a warm smile that it looked weird on his scary face. "All right, thanks," Jin said before walking past him and climbed on the back of the horse. Tigress just nodded at him before walking forward while Rapunzel just flashed a smile and waved her hand which hook man reciprocated and waved back in return. "Looks like they only have one horse here. Maybe the three of us could fit in," Jin said. Meanwhile, Tigress was looking at the horse with a weird expression, the image of Master Horse back in her world flashed in her mind and compared the horse in front of her to Master Horse. Jin was right, it is indeed weird in other worlds. Everyone here looks mindless unlike those in my world. I wonder what my kind looks like in this world. Hopefully it's nothing bad. Tigress said to herself as she heard Jin's words and shook her head. I think this horse could only carry at most 2 people. What she said is actually true. If they insist on getting on with the 3 of them, the horse would definitely lose his energy fast and might even break his back, who knows. Thankfully, his Jin Kazama template knows how to ride a horse, so there won't be any problem is riding the horse. The only problem left is who will ride with Jin, Tigress, or Rapunzel. I could run in my other form, so Rapunzel would take the horse with you. Tigress said before giving Jin a glare as if telling him that if he ever had any ideas during Rapunzel's ride with him. She's definitely telling me that she would bite my dick off. Jin gulped and said to himself, though he doesn't understand how the heck he knows that just by Tigress's glare at him. Ooh! Are you gonna turn in your tiger form again? Rapunzel's eyes gleamed in excitement, not because she would ride in a horse with Jin but because she would see Tigress's tiger form. Why is she more excited to see Tigress's transformation instead of riding behind me on a horse? Shouldn't she be excited at hugging my hard rock ABS or something? Jin's eye twitched before sighing, anyways he's just being sarcastic here, it's not like he's jealous of other fanfic protagonists who seem to get their girls left and right without any problem. Author, muahaha. Too bad for you, I wanted to make this fanfic as realistic as possible when it comes to emotions and character development. After calming Rapunzel down from her excitement, Jin helped Rapunzel climb on the horse, right behind his back. He also helped her place all of her hair on her lap. Since they walked far away from the pub, the thugs wouldn't be able to see Tigress turn into her tigress form. If they did, they would probably panic and call her a monster or something. Thankfully, Jin predicted this, so they walked away from the pub, away from their sight. Fwoosie. Slowly, furs cover Tigress's body, while her delicate body turns a bit buff as her hair spreads on her head and covers them in orange fur. Rapunzel's eyes gleamed in excitement, and if it wasn't for Jin holding her back, she would probably jump from the horse and try to ride on Tigress's back. Alright, let's get on with this. Seeing that Tigress is already on all her fours, Jin took this as a signal to wave the reins skillfully, making the horse neigh and start running under his guidance. Grr! As if fueled by the challenge of surpassing a horse's speed, Tigress growled before running at fast speeds, slowly catching up with the horse, and when she did, she kept up with the horse's pace. Back in the tower, Mother Gothel wiped off her sweat as she finally arrived back at the tower, and as usual she yelled to signal Rapunzel to come and let her hair down to fetch her. Oh, Rapunzel! Let down your hair! A few seconds and so, Rapunzel didn't respond to her. At first Mother Gothel thought she was asleep and tried calling her name repeatedly. Rapunzel! Rapunzel! Finally noticing that something is wrong, Mother Gothel started panicking and immediately ran towards a specific side of the tower before removing the small stones packed up within each other, revealing a small hidden door. As she entered and climbed upwards towards Rapunzel's room, she was shocked to see it dark and empty, and no matter how she called, no one responded to her. Opening the window fiercely, Mother Gothel inhaled and exhaled as she realized that someone must have kidnapped her daughter. No. Dash underscore 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 underscore. My soldiers! Our goal is within our reach. We must persist and never give up. Death might be in front of us, but glory would be our greatest treasure after this. My soldiers scream. My soldiers fight. My soldiers regii. Taitakai. Ch 44, Corona Kingdom. While riding on a horse with Tigress running by their side, Jin lets go of the reins and spreads the rolled-up map. Rapunzel was behind him, hugging his abdomen. Let's see here, the nearest kingdom is the Corona Kingdom. So, that would be our destination. Jin said. He also decided to look at the nearby kingdoms. Arendelle? That sounds familiar? And far far away? Is that even a kingdom? Who the hell names their kingdom as far far away? Jin complained under his breath as he rolled the map back and placed it in his back pocket. There is actually a reason why he wanted to go to Corona Kingdom, which is Rapunzel's kingdom where she was born. Jin wanted Rapunzel to recognize her real parents and that her current mother is nothing but a thief and a selfish person. And he wanted to prove it to Rapunzel. She might be innocent and naive, but she's not dumb enough to not notice that her mother is not her real mother. In the movie, Rapunzel immediately blamed and accused her mother after knowing that she was lying to her all along and that she was actually the lost princess. A/N, for those who don't know or haven't realized, Jin's personality leans more towards kindness, instead of being neutral like other protagonists. What are you thinking? Rapunzel noticed his distant look and asked. Nothing. Jin shook his head and replied. Can you tell me more about the outside world? Those lanterns, was it? Are they as beautiful as I saw them from afar? Rapunzel asked, initiating a conversation between them. Well, I don't know much about this continent, me and Tigress are from a very far away land. However, if you're asking about these lanterns, then my answer is yes. They're not only as beautiful as you imagined them to be, but they're more beautiful up close. I promise you that. Jin said with a smile. Wow, I can't wait to see them again, but they only happen every time during my birthday each year. My birthday is the day after tomorrow. Rapunzel said with a downed expression, sad that she won't be seeing the lanterns anytime soon and would have to wait until her birthday comes. Well then, how about we travel around the kingdom before your birthday? I'm sure it has many customs and traditions that you would definitely like. Jin said while inside his mind, he's determined to let Rapunzel discover that she's the lost princess before her birthday. In Jin's mind, he wanted Rapunzel to reunite with her parents before her birthday, and also to release the sky lanterns with her parents. Really? I can't wait to make friends with everyone. Do they also have delicious food? I always eat soups and vegetables every day. Mother said those are the only foods that she can find for me outside. Rapunzel said with a downcast expression. Yup. Your mother must have been harsh on you. In fact, I think she was lying to you, Rapunzel. Sure, there are some bad and selfish people outside, but not everyone. Rapunzel, do you think the people outside are the people you should really hide from, or perhaps someone that has been using you all along? Jin said, dropping some hints about her deceitful mother and that she's the real person that she should hide from. Rapunzel grew quiet, after hearing what he said, which means that Jin's words are truly having its effect. As long as Rapunzel starts to doubt Gothel, then when he takes her to the kingdom, it would be easy and smooth for her to realize that she's the lost princess of the Corona Kingdom. Meanwhile, Tigress was listening to their conversation and couldn't help but praise Jin inside her mind. She also knows that Rapunzel's mother is the selfish person that she's being scared about. She just needs to face reality. Throughout the journey, Rapunzel has been quiet until they finally arrived at their destination. It seemed as if nothing happened during their journey, as Rapunzel is back to her usual excited and curious self. Chatter. The Corona Kingdom was beaming with happy people, who did their own businesses while some children were running and chasing each other. Rapunzel even played with some children while Tigress just tried her best to blend with the background, though she cast an envious and longing look to some parents who are walking along with their children. At a young age, Tigress has never met her real parents. All she knew was that she was abandoned in Baogu orphanage, where she was shunned by other kids and eventually was found by Master Shifu. Are you okay? Holding her hand, Jin asked her with some worry. I'm fine. Tigress answered, looking away from Jin's eyes, not wanting for him to see her expression through her eyes. Look at me, Tigress. Jin said as he placed his finger on Tigress's chin and made her look at him. What's the problem? As your husband, it is my duty to fulfill your desires and make sure you are satisfied as long as I live. Jin said with a warm smile, making Tigress lean her head on his shoulder and said. I'm just wondering why my parents abandoned me at the orphanage at that time. Do they hate me? Or were they not satisfied with my appearance? I never knew their reason and I wish I knew. After a bit of hesitation, Tigress finally opened her problem to Jin, who nodded his head. Jin was shocked at the problem and couldn't help but pat her back. If it comes to things like this, his wisdom may not be that useful. After all, he grew up with a loving family, so he doesn't know what Tigress feels, so he could only give her personal advice. Sometimes, my little kitten, life's path can be filled with twists and turns we can't fully understand. Just like a tea blend takes time to steep, so does the wisdom of our experiences. Remember, the choices of others are not a reflection of your worth. You have the power to shape your own destiny, and your heart's resilience can be your greatest strength. Jin smiled, however inside his heart, he was shocked at the words he just uttered. How the heck did I say those words? Jin sweated a bit as even he felt a bit enlightened by what he just said. Iroha's template is too strong. Was what Jin felt towards the new template he just got. That's wise. I felt like I was talking to Master Oogway just now. Tigress praised him and felt the similarities between Jin and Master Oogway. Thanks. Obviously, Jin took that as a compliment. While they were talking, they didn't notice that Rapunzel's hair was braided by a bunch of little girls that were mesmerized by her long hair. That's beautiful. Jin complimented her while Tigress nodded her head in agreement. Unlike other girls who may get jealous if their lover complimented someone, Tigress's mindset was different. She only felt that Jin was really complimenting her beauty but not in a romantic way, it's more like complimenting a friend. Thank you. Rapunzel flashed a smile as she took out a handkerchief and showed it to them. Jin and Tigress saw the handkerchief was purple and had a beautiful sun art etched as its design. Look at this, it's beautiful, right? Rapunzel excitedly said while Jin just asked her a question. Rapunzel, where did you get that? Jin asked while pointing at the handkerchief. Oh, this? I just grabbed it there. Rapunzel said while pointing at a stall where a man was standing and selling the handkerchief. Let's find some place else. Jin said before dragging both Tigress and Rapunzel out of the area in a hurry. Mommy, look, it's the painting of the royals with the lost princess. A little child dragged her mother to a wall with a decorative painting of a king and queen, holding their child with blonde hair and green eyes. Standing in front of it was Jin, Tigress, and Rapunzel. While Tigress was eyeing the painting with suspicion and Rapunzel was looking at the painting with a hint of unsureness in her eyes, Jin decided to strike the iron while it was still hot. Am I the only one, or does that lost princess look a bit like you? Blonde hair and green eyes. Except that your hair is a bit longer, but it's understandable after all, our hair grows as we also grow. Jin said while giving many hints at Rapunzel. It only took a few moments before Rapunzel's eyes widened in surprise as she realized something. Am I, the lost princess? Seeing the expression on Rapunzel's face, both Jin and Tigress finally smiled unknowingly. After realizing by herself, she then looked at both Jin and Tigress then asked. I am the lost princess, isn't it? Rapunzel said, and seeing them nodded, shock filled Rapunzel's eyes as tears welled up, her mind was in chaos. All this time, her mother has been lying to her, telling her that she was hiding her from the malicious people outside the tower, and it turns out, Gothel was supposed to be the one she is hiding from. Zell, can I call you that? Now that Rapunzel has known about the truth, Jin was now more comfortable with her, so after he asked her permission to call her by a nickname, she nodded and he continued. Are you ready to meet your parents? I'm sure they would be happy, more than happy. Jin said with a warm smile. Just as Rapunzel nodded and was about to prepare herself from meeting her true parents, they suddenly heard a shout that is familiar to Rapunzel. Rapunzel! What are you doing in this kingdom, out of your tower? Nearby them, two people were walking side by side. Every time they passed by someone they would immediately bow their heads in respect. While the lady with a crown smiled at them and greeted them back, the man was looking down on the ground with a huge amount of sadness filled in his face. When suddenly, they heard a shout from afar. Rapunzel! What are you doing in this kingdom, out of your tower? Ch 45, Rapunzel's true parents. You can visit my Patreon to read 15 advanced chapters, and if you want to support me, www.patreon.com/slimesage, don't forget to change at to a comment. 30 comments. Vote. Chapter 46, Ch 45, Rapunzel's true parents. Rapunzel! What are you doing in this kingdom, out of your tower? Hearing and seeing her fake mother, Gothel, Rapunzel was shocked. Mot Gothel, what are you doing here? Just as Rapunzel was about to slip, she quickly realized it and corrected herself. You! How dare you disrespect me, your mother? After everything I've done for you. Gothel glared at Rapunzel, trying to play as the victim. This little commotion has caused quite a crowd, surrounding them from all sides. You mean how you kept me in a tower away from my real parents? I should be the one hiding from you. Rapunzel snapped at her. Even Gothel was shocked at seeing their new side of Rapunzel. Never once did she see Rapunzel getting angry at anything, especially to her. That's when she saw Tigress and Jin standing behind her, glaring at her as if they would pounce at her any moment now. As her eyes revealed a look of realization. Ah, I see. You're growing up and decided to be immature. These two must have influenced you. Come back to mommy, you know mommy knows best. Gothel came back to her calm self and soft approach, trying her best to use Rapunzel's feelings of being her mother to poach her back. Unfortunately for her, Rapunzel wasn't innocent and naive anymore. Gothel's betrayal and lying has made her grow and realize the bad side of the world. No. Rapunzel said one simple word. However, to Gothel, Rapunzel's answer meant a lot of her. Her dream of staying young forever is slowly vanishing from her mind. I see. So I'm the bad guy now? Then so be it. With a look of determination, she unsheathed a dagger from her behind under the shocked eyes of the onlookers. Luckily, the guards were on their way to handle the situation. What is going on here? Suddenly, everyone including Gothel heard a majestic voice from their side. Almost everyone's eyes turned to look at their king and queen, looking at the situation with confused eyes. It's the king and queen. Seeing them, the citizens immediately kneeled on the ground while Rapunzel just stared at them in shock and a sense of familiarity. As if she had known them long ago. Suddenly, a blurry memory flashed in her mind. In that memory she saw herself in a cradle, being watched by two figures that slowly unblurred, revealing them to be the king and the queen. Father, mother. Rapunzel unconsciously uttered, which was heard by King Frederick and Queen Ariana. They both looked at Rapunzel and also felt a sense of familiarity with her. That's when King Frederick saw the painting behind Rapunzel, the painting of their lost daughter that overlaps on Rapunzel's face. A look of realization and shock appeared on King Frederick's face while Queen Ariana also widened her eyes in surprise. You are, my daughter. King Frederick's saddened and depressed face immediately disappeared and was replaced by happiness and excitement. He immediately ran towards Rapunzel while Queen Ariana also did some. Tears welled up on Rapunzel's eyes as she also ran towards King Frederick and they both engulfed in a deep hug. Father. Mother. After hugging Frederick, Ariana also followed and hugged them both. Just in time, the royal guards have finally arrived, and one of the royal guards has a very familiar horse. That's Maximus, right? Jin looked at the white horse. He always saw that Maximus is more than just a normal horse. After all, in the movie, Maximus was actually smarter than just a horse. It's like a human reincarnated as a horse. Seeing that his guards had arrived, King Frederick stood up and looked at Gothel, and saw that she was running away, pushing all the citizens away from her path. Quickly! Arrest that woman! King Frederick ordered and pointed at the running Gothel. Maximus, go! The royal guard captain quickly gave an order. Huff! Blowing air from his nose, Maximus's eyes squinted at Gothel's figure before running at full speed. Determined to take down Gothel. Under the watchful eyes of Rapunzel and everyone, Maximus's full speed collided with Gothel's figure that tried to beg. Wait! Please no! However, it was already too late as Maximus bumped his head on Gothel's body, throwing her far away before she fell on the ground, knocked out by Maximus himself. Huff! Nay! Standing proudly, Maximus smiled, showing his clear white teeth. That horse is good. King Frederick complimented Maximus after seeing that Maximus was faster than the other horses. Meanwhile, Jin and Tigris just stared at this with contentment. Their job here is done. Unfortunately, there weren't that many enemies here, unlike in Jin's previous world, the Kung Fu Panda world. There are no Tai Lung or Shen or Kai in here. Aside from Rapunzel, everyone is a normal human being, making their presence a bit unknown as their purpose in life is to use their might to help the innocent and weak. Which is the reason why they helped Rapunzel in the first place. Just because they're not from the Kung Fu Panda world doesn't mean they would stop what they were doing. Maybe I could spread and teach Kung Fu here. Though where would I get my first students? Just as Jin wondered about this, his eyes suddenly widened as he knows a group that exactly fits what he wants. Those groups of thugs in the pub. I could build my own Jade Palace as our home and have them as our students. Thinking of this, Jin grew excitedly and was about to tell Tigris about his plan when King Frederick suddenly approached them. I heard about you both from my daughter, great warriors of a distant land. I owe you for saving my daughter. Suddenly, under the surprised and shocked eyes of everyone, King Frederick bowed his head in front of them. Even Tigris was shocked. She knows the status of a king. It's a bit similar to Lord Shen in Gongmen City, which means they must have the pride and dignity as a ruler, and for King Frederick to bow to them in front of many of his people, clearly says how much he values his daughter and how thankful he is to his daughter's benefactors. Please raise your head, King Frederick. There's no need for you to bow. We were merely helping a maltreated person as we usually do back in our lands. Jin said while helping King Frederick to raise his head. You are truly kind, like what she says. Please, allow me to fulfill any of your requests as long as it is within my capability. King Frederick said, making everyone who heard him gasp. Having the king himself fulfill your request is very valuable. If I refuse, that would be a bit disrespectful, so I'll just request something simple yet what I just needed in my upcoming goal in this world. Jin said to himself before stating his request. I hope you could help us get a large land from your kingdom or outside of it. It would be much better if it was on top of a mountain. After hearing his request, King Frederick nodded his head. He thought Jin's request would be a bit troublesome for him, but it turns out, it is just something so simple. Consider it done. King Frederick quickly said. You guys are staying, right? Suddenly, Rapunzel ran towards them and asked with excitement. Yeah, we would. That's great. I hope you both could join us back in our castle. We would be happy to serve you dinner. Queen Ariana smoothly said, inviting them to their humble abode. Well, if you insist. Jin said while scratching the back of his head. He's actually very hungry right now after all. After meeting Rapunzel, they haven't eaten anything except for berries and plants that they found during their journey in the forest. That's great. Queen Ariana softly clapped her hands as a large and beautiful-looking carriage that has a golden sun carved in every part of this body. As they went in and started riding back to the castle, Gothel was finally brought into prison. For someone like her and what she did, it would be considered mercy for her if the king decided to execute her tomorrow. After all, if it was any other, they would definitely kill her on the spot. In the castle, Jin and the rest finally arrived. Rapunzel and Tigress were the most impressed by the sight of the large castle. I would be living here from now on, right? It would be better than that tower. At least in this place, I would be close with my real parents. Rapunzel said to herself as she decided to explore the castle. Tigress and Jin also decided to follow her. After all, they were also curious about the castle. She's already grown up. Ariana said to her husband, as they both look at Rapunzel's back with warm love in their eyes. King Frederick, whose face had been sad and depressed for the past 18 years, finally smiled for the first time, something that Ariana was very thankful for. Ever since Rapunzel was kidnapped, King Frederick has never smiled again until today. After a few minutes, it was finally dinner time as Jin and Tigress were invited to the table. First of all, before we start this dinner, I would like to express my gratitude to Jin and Tigress for bringing my daughter back, alive and safe. And because of that, please allow me to fulfill your request now. King Frederick announced before handing a majestic-looking parchment to a female servant who then walked towards Jin and handed him the parchment. Without even reading its contents, Jin already knows what was written inside, as it is probably King Frederick's signature on giving him the land that he requested. And last but not the least, tomorrow morning I hope everyone can attend the execution area, where we will finally end the cause of Rapunzel's disappearance. Rapunzel, you don't have to come if you don't want to. After King Frederick announced and expressed his worries to Rapunzel, she replied. It's fine, father, but I think I have a better idea of a punishment for her. It is much better than just executing her. Rapunzel raised her hand like some kind of student and stated her opinion. What is it, dear? Her mother, Ariana, asked her. I think it would be better if. Ch 46, the bathroom accident. Just went to celebrate with my mother's birthday and went drinking with my friends. I might be a bit drunk and so I didn't manage to write a chapter today, however I still have a stockpiled chapter so I would still publish today. _______________________________________________________ I suggest not to execute Gothel, but instead, we should lock her in a prison full of mirrors. Rapunzel said, gathering the questionable looks of everyone at the table. /n, I saw a comment of a reader that somehow managed to predict the punishment, lol. Why is that, Rapunzel? King Frederick asked as Rapunzel proceeded to explain. You see, what Gothel likes the most is to keep her youth and appearance, which is the reason why she kidnapped me in the first place. Now, if we put her in prison forever full of mirrors, she would slowly see herself aging, losing her youth and appearance, which I think is far better punishment for someone like her. As soon as Rapunzel was finished speaking, almost everyone stared at her in shock. They didn't expect this from someone like Rapunzel. Her appearance gave her the charm of an innocent maiden, however what she just proposed is something that only cruel people could think of. My daughter has indeed grown up, but in a bad way. King Frederick sighed inside his mind. When he first saw Rapunzel, he thought she'd be more innocent than she looks. Looks like her resentment on Gothel is far deeper than he expected. Meanwhile, Tigress was nodding her head in agreement while Jin just looked at Rapunzel with an amused smile. Weird, why does she look more beautiful when she said that? Wait, what am I saying? I already have a wife. Jin shook his head from this vulgar thoughts. After finishing their dinner, it was finally night time. Surely tomorrow morning, after implementing Gothel's punishment, there would be a big festival to welcome the return of their lost princess. As Rapunzel finally had her own room, a grand guest room was given to Jin and Tigress. At least the room looks a bit cozy, Jin remarked as he laid flat on the bed. The looks of the room wasn't that much, however. It has its own fireplace, which is good enough since it's freezing outside, especially at night. This world isn't the same as the Earth on his past world, which means there are no oils being used and smokes destroying the ecosystem, and with that the ozone layer is still in its prime, and that means the sun's heat won't affect the Earth too much like the Earth in his past life. Tigress also nodded her head and sat next to him on the bed. Her face seems to be wanting to say something. Whatever it is, just say it. Jin noticed this and helped her. Sigh. Jin, what do you think of Rapunzel? She asked after sighing and hesitating. Zell? She's pretty, smart, innocent, a bit naive, but it's different now, and her long blonde hair adds to her charm. Why do you ask? Jin placed his hand beneath his chin and started thinking for a moment before counting what he thought of Rapunzel with his fingers. It's nothing much, I just realized that the look that Rapunzel gave you earlier is similar to me when I first fell in love with you. Tigress shrugs her shoulders and says. Jin stopped moving as he squinted his eyes at Tigress. What are you implying, my little kitten? Are you jelly? Jin asked and teased her as he poked her cheeks. No, I'm not. I'm just worried about her. She knows that you already have me, which means that her feelings for you would be forever buried inside her heart unless she found someone else. Tigress explained as she continued after getting Jin's attention. However, that would be nigh impossible after all. Would your feelings change on the man who saved you and brought you back to your real parents? Unless something bad happened to her and a man saved her, then her feelings would change to another man. Jin. Tigress finished before facing Jin and calling out his name. What do you think about this? Tigress asked, making Jin's face twitched. He's on a very hard path here, and what he says next would either make Tigress angry or sad. Maybe we should wait first and see if her feelings for me disappear. After all, this might just be a childhood crush. I mean, everyone has those and she's probably no exception. Jin answered after a moment of thinking and hesitation. Fair enough. Let's sleep. Tigress said after staring at Jin's eyes before laying on the bed and proceeded to sleep. Jin wiped off the sweat that has accumulated on his forehead before lying back on the bed, hugging and spooning Tigress on his arms. Her human form has made her smaller than her tigress form, which makes it easy for him to spoon her in his arms. And just like that, the next morning has arrived. A maid knocked on their door, waking Jin up while Tigress woke up a bit but went back to sleep. After untangling himself from Tigress's limbs, Jin stood up as he stretched his whole body. Crack! Snap! Ah dot! Moaning in relief and satisfaction, Jin then opened the door, meeting the maid head-on, who immediately bowed her head after seeing him. It is time for your bath, Lord Jin. The maid said before leading him towards a very large bathroom. If Jin didn't see the toilet inside, he would have thought this was some kind of ballroom. What's with them? That's when Jin noticed that there were 10 other maids inside, all bowing to him. We are here to help you bathe, Lord Jin. Please take off your clothes. After kicking all the maids out, Jin finally sat inside the huge sauna, releasing a mist that covers almost his entire vision in the bathroom. Ah dot! Jin once again sighed in satisfaction. He doesn't know how the hell did sauna exist in this world, or maybe it is not sauna and they probably call it in another term. Creak. Thud. Hum. Someone went in? I could hear the footsteps but I can't see who. It must be Tigress. Jin said to himself as a mischievous grin appeared on his face. Hehe, might as well as do her here. I've been itching a bit lately. After Jin continued inside his mind, his blend quietly blended in the background. He saw a dark figure among the mist, so he sneakily walked behind the figure before pouncing on her, as they both fell on the water in the sauna. Ah! The dark figure's soft voice yelp, definitely not Tigress's voice. Splash! The voice sounds different. Then who the hell is this? Jin wondered to himself as he stood up and watched the dark figure, slowly being unveiled as the mist dispersed. Instead of seeing tan skin and short orange hair, Jin saw a white, smooth, and delicate skin coupled with a very long blonde hair that trailed across the floor. Tracing the body with his eyes, Jin saw that the body was different and the long blonde hair looked familiar to him. Soon, Jin laid his eyes upon the mysterious figure's face, and what he saw next made him froze in shock. It was Rapunzel. Jin. Rapunzel blushed rapidly as she quickly covered her eyes with her palm, however her eyes can be seen between the gaps of her fingers, looking down at his toned body. I'm so dead. Jin muttered in shock before another realization dawned upon him. Isn't her 18th birthday tomorrow? Then. Inside Jin's mind, he saw himself being escorted by the FBI as they pushed him inside their car seat. Outside the bathroom, King Frederick and Queen Ariana stared at the bathroom as they heard Jin's yell inside. Is this really the solution? It's like we're giving Rapunzel away just to make ties with Jin. Queen Ariana worriedly said to her husband. It's fine. Rapunzel likes him, I know it. If what we heard from Rapunzel is true, then perhaps Jin could be the one to save our kingdom. We are on the verge of war with the neighboring kingdoms. We need large manpower. I'm afraid if we can't have Jin to help us, then our kingdom would be conquered, our citizens would be killed and submerged into cruel situations. I don't want that to happen as I am their king. King Frederick said with a sigh in anxiety. What about Jin's wife, Tigress? If she knows what we're doing then, she definitely wouldn't like it. Sigh. I've written in that parchment that I gifted Jin, declaring him as our kingdom's duke. With his status, perhaps it is only natural for him to have other women. King Frederick said, and just as Queen Ariana was about to reply, they suddenly heard a chilling voice behind them. Are you sure about that? From what I know, Jin hasn't agreed to that yet. Hearing Tigress's voice, both King Frederick and Queen Ariana shuddered in fear and shock. Tigress. King Frederick shivered as he tried to find a way to explain. Surprisingly, Tigress sighed as she pushed them aside and stood in front of the bathroom. Normally I should be mad about this, but if it's Rapunzel, then perhaps it would be fine for me. Tigress said before turning around to face them. However, I won't agree unless you both tell Jin the truth, and if he disagrees about it, then you can consider us gone from this kingdom. Tigress said with a glare before growling and kicking the bathroom's door. Boom. Inside the bathroom, Jin was standing in front of Rapunzel with his eyes covered in a large tower. Jin. Tigress called out to him, making Jin think that Tigress discovered him cheating on her. Tigress, it's not what it looks like. I was just having a bath when rap. I know. Come with me, we have something to talk about. Tigress said before grabbing Jin's hands and walked outside, thankfully his body was also covered in a towel. Before she completely leaves, she glares at the royal couple for the last time before leaving. Seeing this as a message for them to do as she says, they sighed and helped Rapunzel get dressed. Since Tigress has told them so, then there's no use in keeping the secret of the situation of their kingdom to Rapunzel anymore. Mother, father? What's going on? I thought you told me this was my personal bathroom. Rapunzel said with a hint of slight anger and satisfaction in her tone. I'm sorry, dear, but we haven't been really honest with you. Just get dressed and come with us, we have something to tell you. Queen Ariana said with a somber tone. Ch47, Corona Kingdom's dire situation. I was thinking of making a Discord server so I could someone to talk with every night, however I don't know how to create one, and also so I could make announcements there instead of having to make an announcement chapter every time I have something to announce. Dash underscore 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 underscore. Inside a spacious room, King Frederick and Queen Ariana sat on the sofa next to each other while Tigress, Jin, and Rapunzel were sitting on the other sofa right in front of them, with Jin being in the middle. You see, our neighboring, Firefall Kingdom has gone into a killing spree, conquering their nearby villages and towns, and our kingdom is next to theirs. Which means their king is eyeing on conquering our kingdom. We tried to have peace talks with him, but not only did he kill our messenger, but he also sent it to our doorstep. Their king has gone mad. King Frederick said, releasing all of his pent-up exhaustion as he explained. I see. Jin nodded his head. He didn't expect there would be such a kingdom in this world. Though it is to be expected, although this world was made for kids, this has turned into a real world, meaning that each action has consequences and not everything you see in the movie portrays the entire world. Which is why we are asking for your help. You have already helped our daughter and I am too embarrassed to ask for more, but seeing that my daughter is in love with you, I thought it would be better to make both of you form some kind of relationship, which in turn would tie you up to our kingdom. Please, believe me, I am merely worried about my kingdom and its innocent citizens. King Frederick begged as he even went down on his knees, begging Jin to help their kingdom. A king that is willing to put down his pride and beg someone to help him might seem cowardly to others, but to Jin's eyes, Frederick is a compassionate and caring king, unlike the king who became dictators in their own country. Looking at Tigress, Jin saw how Tigress has also made her decision and he's willing to make the same decision as her. Fine. We'll help. But I won't serve as your weapon. I am merely going to help you, do you understand? Obviously, Jin would help, his sense of justice and kindness has been triggered. Perhaps it is Jin's personality itself, or maybe it is his angel bloodline, or former angel bloodline, as Jin is sure that when he awakened at the spirit realm during his fight with Kai, he transformed into an angel just to fall in just a second. As of now, Jin was trying to use the demonic powers that were said for him to be able to wield if he fell from grace. But so far, Jin couldn't feel any demonic thingy inside him except for the chi and the raging flame that is tempting to burst out any moment if it wasn't for him controlling it. If this is how Iroh feels every day, Jin's respect for him has increased. After all, to be able to resist the feeling of burning everything in your path shows how incredible Iroh as well is, not to mention he's calm and wise, as if there isn't a dangerous flame inside him. Yes. I understand. Thank you. King Frederick didn't mind the slight disrespect, in his eyes, as long as Jin is willing to help, he's ready to put his life on the line. King Frederick isn't the same as the other kings who highly valued their own lives, willing to sacrifice thousands of people just to live. To King Frederick, his people's lives are the same as his life. If they died and he lived, he might as well have died. There's a reason why the Corona Kingdom is called as one of the best and peaceful kingdoms in the entire world. King Frederick treats his people as his own family. Thank you. Queen Ariana was also the same, she bowed her head in front of Jin. Meanwhile, Rapunzel stared at her parents with happiness. To her, her parents aren't cowards, they're similar to the heroes that she once read in some books. Alright, that's all. How about we proceed with Gothel's punishment? It's taking too long. Jin then nodded his head as he changed the topic. Since he already agreed, there's no point in dwelling on it any longer. Just because someone needed his help doesn't mean he'd take advantage of them, you might as well call him a villain also, just doing a different way from a villain. Oh right. King Frederick nodded her head as Rapunzel gulped her saliva in nervousness. Despite being angry at Gothel, her memories of her childhood with her flashed in her mind, making it hard for her to accept the execution of Gothel, which is why she proposed a new punishment yesterday. She can't bear to see her die in front of her eyes, and even if she looks away, the thought that Gothel is killed would linger in her mind. Suddenly, while Rapunzel was having hard time inside her mind, Queen Ariana held her hand. As Rapunzel's mother, her instinct tells her that Rapunzel is having trouble, and since she's her daughter, Ariana must be there to ease her. It's okay, Rapunzel. I'll be here. Ariana soothes her, making Rapunzel smile and nod her head. Thank you, mother. She then went to hug her under the eyes of everyone. Clang. With chains attached on her wrist and ankles, Gothel's eyes were dimmed, as if there was no more life inside her. The guards were escorting her from behind and front towards her new prison cell. Gothel thought that she would be executed, however, instead of being executed, she heard that she would be brought to a larger room, which made Gothel come up to one conclusion. It must have been Rapunzel. She probably still sees me as her mother. I could use that feeling to set myself free. But how am I gonna talk to her? As if luck were shining upon her, she finally saw her new cell, but what caught her attention was the bunch of individuals standing and staring at her. One of them is Rapunzel. This is my chance. With excitement in her eyes, Gothel started her act. Rapunzel, please. Let me go. I took care of you, Rapunzel. Crocodile tears started welling up in her eye, and Gothel used her best to show how pitiful she looks right now. However, all she met was a cold stare of everyone, making her stop in her tracks, allowing the guards to put her in her new room and lock the door. Clang! The moment the door closes, Gothel grits her teeth and she yells in anger. You ungrateful brat! Trust me, you should have killed me. I will get out of this place and tear your family apart. And we will be together forever, Rapunzel. After finally exhausting herself and hurting her throat, Gothel took her time to take a look in her surroundings, and that's when she noticed the mirrors everywhere. When she said everywhere, she literally means everywhere. Not even the ceiling and the floors were spared. There were no windows that allowed her to see the outside world. She feels like a woman trapped in a room, similar to Rapunzel's situation in the tower, except that her situation is far worse. Looking at one of the mirrors, Gothel saw her appearance and noticed the wrinkles in her face, making her shocked and panicked. No. No. No 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 no. After circling around and seeing nothing but mirrors, Gothel immediately turned back and tried to knock on the door. However, she saw that the door was gone, it is now replaced with the same mirror. The only source of light that she has in the room is a candle in the corner and the small holes on the ceiling. If the candle dies out and the day turns into night, then she would be met with pure darkness. No. Let me out of here. Rapunzel, please help me. Outside the nightmare room, Rapunzel was looking away with her eyes closed while her mother, Ariana, stayed true to her words earlier and stayed by her side, never leaving even a second. That is quite a cruel punishment. I bet Gothel would turn insane in just a week. Scratch that, maybe she'd be crazy before the night falls. Jin said to himself while Tigress beside him didn't show any emotion, keeping her cold face. Let us go back. King Frederick said as he slowly walked out of the prison hallway. Almost every soldier that he passed on would bow their heads to him. Before they could go back to the carriage that carried them here, Jin and Tigress decided to explore for a bit around the kingdom before Jin left outside to fetch his unofficial crew. Take me with you. I also want to see more of the kingdom. Rapunzel raised her hand in volunteering and said as she made a begging expression to her parents. Ha ha ha, it's fine. You can go. King Frederick smiled warmly before giving his permission. Just make sure to stay out of some dark alleys, our kingdom is not a crime-free kingdom. Queen Ariana advises before climbing inside the carriage. Thank you, father. Yes, mother. Rapunzel smiled and replied. The moment the carriage was dragged by the horse away from them, Rapunzel jumped in excitement before dragging both Jin and Tigress outside the prison walls where they would have their small adventure in the kingdom. Their trip around the kingdom wasn't that bad, though it is also not that good, as Jin felt like it is a bit boring in the kingdom. There are no games to play or some places with entertainment. There are only bars, puns, shops and restaurants around the kingdom. It took them a few hours before the other two got bored. When Jin looked up and saw that the sun was about to fall and the night was about to come, he turned to Tigress and Rapunzel. Do you guys remember the Snuggly Duckling? I was thinking of going back there as I have something to do there. Rapunzel, tell your parents I will be back, okay? Jin said as he pecked Tigress's lips, making Rapunzel pout as she saw in her two eyes. I'll come with you. Tigress said. However, Jin immediately refused her. There's no need. It would be better for you to be in the kingdom. After all, if the neighboring kingdom has decided to attack while I'm gone, they could rely on you. Jin stated as Rapunzel asked. Don't you need a horse? I could tell my mother to come and fetch you one of their best. There's no need, I, alone am enough. Jin said with a smirk before he slowly floated off the ground. I'll see you guys later. Jin said with a salute before flying high and away outside the kingdom's walls. Ch-48, the heroes of justice. Up in the air, outside the kingdom. Jin could feel the waves of air smashing against his face. He could see the entire wide forest, and in his opinion, it is breathtaking. Thankfully, I practiced flying with Chi during our journey to the Corona Kingdom. As long as my Chi reserves aren't depleted, I could maintain flying for as long as I want. Jin said to himself, as he flew back down on the ground and decided to use this chance of free time to train his body. It's been a while since he last trained, and he also wanted to train Iroha's fire bending. He was actually shocked to discover that his previous 1% of Iroha's template had jumped to a whopping 11% in just one morning. Jin tried to think of a reason for this, and the only conclusion that he could think of was due to the wise advice that he gave to Tigress and Rapunzel, since Iroha is technically not known due to his incredible strength, but because of his wise character that guides the first villain in the story, which is his nephew Zuko. So, I should just give life advice to everyone that got some problems to increase my template percentage? Sounds easy to be true. Or do I need to have a nephew to guide while helping him chase the avatar? Jin wondered to himself as he assumed a basic fire bending stance that is taught to every firebender in the Fire Nation. Iroha's fire bending is different from the other firebenders who use their emotions, specifically their anger, hatred, and rage to fuel their fire. However, Iroha was different. He mastered the origin of firebending by learning from dragons, which doesn't rely on said emotions. As Jin was talking to himself, he extended his fist forward, releasing a hot orange flames that burned the grass and trees in front of him. Normally, this kind of act would definitely burn the entire forest and destroy the ecosystem, however Jin is now a firebender, which means he could bend the flames near him. With a simple wave of his hand, the flames everywhere dispersed into air, as if there weren't any flames in there to begin with. This is incredible. In this world where fire is known as the strongest element, my strength would definitely be enough to conquer kingdoms by myself. Jin said to himself. However, he soon shook his head and chuckled. Ha! I have the blood of an angel flowing in my veins, how could an angel conquer the world? Especially since God would definitely not like it, and besides, conquering the world is boring. Jin said to himself with a shrug. What he said is actually true. If he conquers the world, everyone will fear him, and if everyone fears him they would spark a rebellion, and if they spark a rebellion, the development of entertainment would be put in a halt. If the entertainment is put in a halt, life becomes boring, and if life becomes boring, Jin would be tempted to do some stuff to ease his boredom. If he do that, he would accidentally kill himself. In short, don't conquer the world. Okay, fire bending check. Next is about my angel bloodline. If I'm not wrong, I fell as soon as I activated my angel bloodline, so goodbye to holy light manipulation and hello to demonic powers. Jin said to himself before preparing to use his demonic powers. To be honest, he has no idea how to use one, and he could even sense anything about it. I suggest you don't do that. While Jin was thinking to himself, he suddenly heard God's voice. Thankfully, Jin already got used to him, so he wasn't frightened by his sudden voice. Oh, God! You're here. What do you mean by that, though? Jin turned around, and as he expected, God was sitting in his favorite spot as usual, which is the tree's branch. Using your demonic powers would attract some unnecessary attention to yourself, such as my angels and the heroes of justice. Unless you're confident in your strength, then you shouldn't reveal your demonic powers yet. God advised him. However, those he mentioned caught Jin's attention. Your angels and heroes of justice? Who are those? Jin asked, and as if God is expecting the question, he swiftly answered. Angels are basically my angels that are scattered around the multiverse, bringing kindness and to protect the multiverse itself. He replied, drawing confusion from Jin. Hey? Then what's the point of my existence then? Couldn't you just order them to watch over the gods instead of me? Jin raised his eyebrow in confusion as God chuckled and answered. At first they could, but my children complained about the angels disturbing their peaceful life, and as their father, I made a pact between each of them to not interfere with one another, so a god can't interfere with an angel and vice versa. God explained while Jin nodded his head. I see. Is that why you sent me? Since you can't order your angels to watch over the gods, you decided to use someone outside to do the work? Alright, I understand. How about those heroes of justice? What are they? Heroes of justice are basically those who have transcended their universe's limit and decided to become heroes of justice in exchange for a very long life, and their job is to keep watch over the fallen angels, devils, and demons. If they discovered one in a universe such as this universe, they would hunt you down, and trust me, your strength is still meager compared to them, so don't reveal yourself and lay low. God said with a smile before vanishing as usual. Seriously, can't he even give a proper goodbye before he leaves? Jin grumbled under his breath before his mind started thinking about what God said. I didn't expect such beings to exist. I already expected the angels, but heroes of justice, I haven't heard of them yet. Jin wondered to himself before deciding to put it aside for now. Anyways, as long as he doesn't use his demonic powers, he should be fine from them. Anyways, what was I doing before this? Oh right, I was testing my powers. I don't have anything here to test my strength yet, so I'll start with my speed. Putting a crouching start similar to those athletes, his eyes were focused on front as his muscles tensed, ready to blow any moment now. Just in time, Jin saw a falling leaf in his peripheral vision. Taking that as a signal, the moment the leaf touched the ground, Jin immediately took off. His calves muscles bursting out in power. Boom! A sonic boom burst out, startling the birds and the nearby animals. A blur appears across the forest, reaching the speeds of a speeding jet. However, it didn't take long before Jin's speeding figure collided with a tree. Unable to dodge, Jin could only brace himself by crossing his arms and using it to shield himself. Boom! Crack! As soon as he collided, Jin's momentum slowed down as his body fell on the ground, but still continued being thrown forward. Similar to skipping stones, with Jin as the stone. A few seconds later, Jin's body collided on a tree once again before coming into full halt. Huff, I'm not doing that again. Perhaps I'll only use moderate speed. Jin groaned in slight pain. Sure, his body is very durable, but imagine you're going on almost sonic sound speed and colliding on a tree. It might not sound that much, but as the person who experienced it himself says otherwise. Standing up on the ground, Jin stretched his body, popping up a few joints on his back and arms. I also want to test other things such as my devil form. Speaking of devil form, why haven't those heroes of justice found me yet? Jin pondered to himself. However, according to God, they would detect demonic powers, and during his devil Jin form, he hasn't used any demonic powers. The lasers in his eyes were his chi, so it's not considered as demonic. Everything he used during his fight with Kai are chi, so perhaps that's the reason why he wasn't found yet. Let's resume our journey here. Jin continued and said to himself before floating again and taking off in the air. Inside the snuggly duckling, everyone was a bit down as they just lost a potential leader to lead them to their dreams. Thud. Suddenly, while everyone was down and drinking to get drunk, the door was suddenly blasted open, getting the attention of everyone. Who is it again? The man with the hook grumbled and said. He still remembered how his mustache was pulled out by Jin during their fight with him, and seeing that their little pub would welcome a newcomer again, the man with the hook hopes it won't be someone like Jin again. What? You guys don't miss me? Suddenly, amidst the clouds of dust, they heard a familiar voice, and when it finished, the dust was finally cleared, showing a very familiar figure that has been plaguing their mind every day. Be boss. I mean, sir. The man with the hook was the most excited one out of them all. However, he realized that Jin didn't accept their loyalty, so he corrected himself. Master. From now on, call me master. You all will be my students, from now on. Are we clear? If you don't want it, the door is this way. Jin said before stepping aside, letting them face the open door where he went through. However, all of them suddenly stood up, and under Jin's eyes, they all bowed at him and yelled unison. Please guide us, master. Their yell resounded across the room, causing a slight earthquake as the cups and bottles shook slightly. Having a large grin on his face, Jin felt like he had just become a mafia boss. I guess it's time to let the whole world hear my name. I wonder what I should name our newly formed Kung Fu group? I can't use the Jade Palace name, it's already used by Master Shifu and the rest. Maybe. CH-49, the Dragon's Nest. Hey! Have you heard of the Dragon's Nest? I heard a bunch of thugs created it. A child with a short braid as her hair said to her fellow child. Wrong. I heard some royal guards even tried to get in, but none of them were accepted. They must be elite warriors. The child beside her refuted what she said and made up her own lie. As both kids argue, Tigress was walking around the street when she heard what they said. It's been a whole week since Jin came back with a bunch of thugs that he faces on the Snuggly Duckling pub. It turns out, he's planning on using the land that he got from King Frederick to start his own Kung Fu school similar to the Jade Palace and use his title as a duke to hire some builders to build his school. Why did he choose a bunch of thugs anyway? Isn't it better to scout some real talents like Master Shifu? He told me that quality is better than quantity. Tigress said to herself. She should probably head to his land and ask him about it. Ever since Jin came back with the thugs, he has been busy implementing rules and teaching them the basics of Kung Fu. Of course, Tigress doesn't mind it. After all, he's been giving too much of his time to her. As his wife, she understands that he should give some time for himself. She's not a greedy woman who craves for her husband's attention 24/7. While Tigress was on her own, Jin was staring at the tall construction in front of him. One thing he noticed in this world was that the construction of structures was much slower than in his past life. Perhaps it is due to the lack of technology made for architecture. Perhaps it will be finished by next month. Jin sighed to himself as he turned around and saw his students training with their bodies as usual. Most of their bodies are made of fats and short on muscles, which is why Jin put them on a diet first to lose the fat and allow their muscles to build up. SEI. 50. They were all shouting in unison as they punched the air in front of them. Those who are fat and chubby, were doing some cardio exercise on the other side of the forest. Good work, everyone. Keep it up. Jin yelled some shouts of encouragement. Yes, master. They all yelled back in unison before continuing the training. I'll be teaching them some defensive techniques first, perhaps parry and counterattack should be enough. Jin said to himself before jogging back to the Corona Kingdom. Thankfully, it is almost 10 miles away from his land, which made it easy for him to set a goal during his morning workout. As for his land, he has decided to name it the Dragon's Nest. The same goes to his school's name. The name actually fits as he's teaching Kung Fu and he is a dragon warrior. I didn't expect to be this good at making names. Jin sarcastically praised himself as he started his jogging journey back to the Corona Kingdom. It took him exactly 3 hours of continuous non-stop jogging before he finally arrived at the bridge that connects to the entrance of the kingdom. Just as Jin was crossing the bridge, a majestic-looking carriage was rolling behind him and rolled past him. Obviously Jin just noticed this and thought it might be some kind of noble that is visiting or returning. What he didn't expect though was to see the same carriage parked in front of the royal castle of the Corona Kingdom. Is it King Frederick's brother or something? Jin wondered to himself as he continued jogging as he went inside the front doors. Just as he arrived, he heard a yell from the guest room. I told you many times, my daughter will not be married to anybody. I already have someone for her. From the sound of it, it was King Frederick's angry voice. Our king has chosen to marry her to sign the peace treaty. We heard that she's a very beautiful woman with long blonde hair that could captivate men's lust. Do you want your kingdom to cease to exist? If not, then marry your daughter to our king and he'll sign a peace treaty with your kingdom. Jin then heard another about it, but this time, it is a bit arrogant. From what he heard from their conversation, Jin could come up to one conclusion. It must be the Corona Kingdom's neighboring kingdom that is threatening to conquer them. From the looks of it, they want Rapunzel to marry their king in exchange for peace. Perhaps I should intercept now. Thinking to himself, Jin then slammed the door open, shocking everyone inside. King Frederick and Queen Ariana, who saw his figure, sighed in relief. What a rude way to enter. Are you a servant here? This is not how servants should isekai'd. The man with the slick back hair was reprimanding him when Jin finally had enough of his voice. So, with a simple movement of his hand, the messenger found himself lying on the ground, facing Jin's face. Look at me, random guy. If you want your king to marry Rapunzel, then perhaps he should step over my dead body first. Now, relay this message to your king. If he wants war, then I'll give him war. Seeing the cold look on Jin's face, the messenger gulped his saliva in fear as he didn't manage to hold himself and started wetting his pants. Looking at him in disgust, Jin grabbed the messenger's collar and threw him outside the open window, landing on top of his carriage's horse, startling the horse to start running away. Jin. Is this right? What if their king didn't like what happened and really start a WA? Just as King Frederick was expressing his worries, Jin stopped him and interrupted. Isn't that what I told him earlier? If they want war, then let them come. I've been itching for a fight and hopefully, they could scratch this itch. Anyways, where's Tigress? After answering King Frederick, he followed up with a question. This time, it was Queen Ariana who answered his question. I think she's with Rapunzel, walking around the capital. I see. Thanks, I'll go first. Just in case, I won't be leaving the kingdom for a few days. If what you said about their king is true, then he probably can't wait to invade the kingdom. Jin said his last words before walking outside. In the shopping district of the kingdom, Rapunzel and Tigress were wandering around. Their combination of beauty has attracted many, but they didn't approach them as they knew their identities, which makes them shop with ease. While Tigress was looking around, Rapunzel was holding several paints that looked better in quality than the one she gets from Gothel when she used to be trapped in a tower. I can't believe this color exists in a single bucket. Back in the tower, I have to mix several colors just to produce this color. Rapunzel pouted while shaking the violet-colored paint on her hand. While they were walking aimlessly, Tigress suddenly started sniffing in the air, as she closed her eyes and tried to find the familiar smell. Got you. Tigress smirked after she finished sniffing the air. Tigress. Rapunzel noticed her sudden movement and couldn't help but ask. Follow me. Tigress didn't say anything else before bolting off, startling Rapunzel, who immediately chased after her. Wait, Tigress. However, due to the paintings that she was carrying, her speed was a bit slowed down. I wonder where those two are. On the other side of the district, Jin was walking and looking around. As he did so, he also noticed some few interesting things in the public market, like a toy that he has never seen before, while some are those he has seen in his original world or felt familiar with, like the kites. Jin was fascinated that such things were also made here. Unfortunately, Jin wasn't carrying any money, so he could only watch the kids who were playing it with jealousy in his eyes. Since when did I become this poor? I should have asked Frederick some gold coins before I left. As Jin was grumbling inside his mind, he suddenly stopped in his tracks as he heard a rushing footsteps behind him. Jin, who has been relaxed in the kingdom, didn't expect he would be attacked. However, it was too late as the owner of the footsteps had already pounced on him. Boing! However, instead of feeling pain behind him, Jin felt a soft touch enveloping his head. This smells familiar. Jin rotated his head and sniffed the soft and bouncy feeling on his head. You've been gone for 5 days. What took you so long? Jin then heard Tigress's voice behind him. Just from what she said and the tone of her voice, Jin could already tell that she was pouting. And he's right. When he removed himself from her hug, Jin turned to face her and saw her pout. I apologize, my little kitty. Jin touched Tigress's cheeks and pecked on her lips as he apologized. I'm just joking, Jin. I don't want you to waste most of your time for me, it's fine to focus on yourself sometimes and do what you really want. Tigress smiled warmly and said, making Jin baffled at her sudden change of personality. So, he can't help but plant another kiss on her lips. While they were smooching each other, Rapunzel finally arrived and was about to call them when she saw the kiss. Although she already knew that they were lovers, Rapunzel felt a slight pain in her heart, so she could do nothing but just wait for them to finish and bury her feeling inside her heart. In her mind, she already felt like she had lost her chance to Jin. Ch 50, Rapunzel's feelings. After their little interaction, Rapunzel just got there in time. Tigress, you run too fast. Rapunzel said while wiping off the sweat on her forehead, pretending as if she didn't see them making out. Although she has feelings for Jin, however she can't break her friend, Tigress's heart. During the 5 days they've been together, Rapunzel has already seen Tigress as her own friend, almost like a sister. Sorry for running off like that. Tigress apologized, however an unknown glint flashed past her eyes. Rapunzel might have forgotten that her sense of smell is superior, which is why she has already known that Rapunzel saw them. Though she was confused on why Rapunzel would hide her feelings on Jin. Isn't it only natural for Rapunzel to have feelings for her savior? Why hide it? Perhaps she's afraid that I would hate her, I guess I would have to talk to her. Tigress said while staring back at Jin's face. Seriously, how dense can you be to not notice that there's a maiden in love right in front of you? Tigress complained as Jin spoke next. How about I join you guys on your little walk? I can see that you both are wandering around. Jin asked while staring at the paints on Rapunzel's arms, unaware of the stare that Tigress was giving him. Sure. Rapunzel answered excitedly as she started dragging him around, showing him things that either he already saw in his world or just doesn't interest him. However, he still pretended as if he was interested as to not hurt Rapunzel's feelings. Look at this, Jin. They call it a kite. Rapunzel excitedly introduced the kite to him as she showed him how to play the kite. Seeing Rapunzel running around the streets and almost bumping into one of the royal guards, made Jin's face twitch. Thankfully, the royal guards knew who bumped them, so instead of getting angry, they just helped Rapunzel and even apologized to her. Being a noble really has its perks. However, if you're not a kind noble, then don't expect your people to treat you better. Jin said to himself as he apologized to the royal guards in her stead before grabbing her hand in order for her to stay close to him and not bump into someone again. Rapunzel blushed as she could feel the warm feeling on her hand, however Rapunzel was afraid of making Tigress angry, so she removed her hand from his. Thanks Jin, but I could handle myself. Rapunzel smiled and said to him before hastening her walking pace. Although confused, Jin thought that Rapunzel was simply growing up now, so he decided to let her be. Meanwhile, Tigress was shaking her head beside him and decided to give him a lecture later when it comes to a girl's feelings. As Tigress was targeting to lecture Jin later, the said suspect suddenly shuddered for an unknown reason. If I were a character in an anime, then this shudder is probably due to a certain someone thinking something bad to me. Jin said as he eyed his surroundings in suspicion. A few hours later, they were finally back to the castle. Rapunzel quickly went back to her room in an excuse of wanting to try the paints as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Jin was suddenly dragged by Tigress back to their room. Ah, looks like my little kitty wants it tonight. However, Jin misunderstands Tigress's gesture as he thinks that she wants the D. No, you idiot. I'm not here for that, but we can do it later. I brought you here because I want to talk to you about Rapunzel. Tigress blushed slightly and explained, though not refusing what he said. Rapunzel? What of her? Jin raised his eyebrow and asked. Actually, he did find Rapunzel's previous actions a bit suspicious. However, he only viewed them as part of growing up. I can't believe someone like you can be this dense. Tigress shook her head in disappointment before revealing to Jin about what he was missing. Rapunzel is in love with you. We have to help her settle her feelings, she can't keep hiding it in her heart. Tigress said, shocking Jin. Oh. I see. Jin raised his eyebrows, though he already expected this, but what he didn't expect was for Tigress to confront him about it. It's like she wants to tell him something about Rapunzel's feelings. So? What am I supposed to do about it? You know I can't love her back, right? Jin scratched his head as he spoke. Hey? Why can't you love her back? Tigress got confused and asked in return. Of course I can't, I already have you, right? Why should I love someone else? This time, it was Jin who got confused by Tigress's confusion. No, what I mean is that why can't you love her back? She's my friend and I can't afford to see her hurt. Tigress answered, making Jin further confused and also shocked. Do you perhaps not know anything about marriage? Jin asked, and seeing Tigress shaking her head made Jin sigh as he finally realized why she kept being confused and even told him to love Rapunzel back. You see, once you marry someone, you can't love anybody else with the same love that you give to the one you married. So I can't love her back because I'm married to you. After Jin's explanation, Tigress seemed to nod her head before speaking. Then, what if I agree? Jin's eyeballs almost popped out after hearing Tigress's words, though a tinge of happiness appeared inside him, but he quickly suppressed it. After all, he's a loyal husband. Tigress, I don't know, since I haven't seen one happen before, perhaps it is possible, but I see Rapunzel as a friend for now, so it's pretty hard to see her the same way as she does to me. Jin shook his head before continuing. But, if you really don't want to see her hurt, then perhaps I can try to see her more than just a friend. Jin then held Tigress's hands and said, as if what he was doing was for the sake of Tigress not wanting to let her friend hurt. Yup. He's definitely doing this for Tigress. It's not like he wants a harem or anything. Then, go talk to her. Tigress said before opening the door and pushing him out of the room before she closed the door back. Sigh, troublesome. Jin sighed and scratched the back of his head before walking towards Rapunzel's room. The castle was huge, so it would take him a while before he could get to her room. In the meantime, Jin was thinking about what Tigress said, and he still can't believe she just allowed him to love somebody else aside from her. I mean, she grew up as a fighter and she barely knows how to love someone, so perhaps it is due to that she wasn't selfish for me. Sigh, I wonder how many men back in my world would kill me just to be in the same situation. Jin chuckled to himself, and before he knew it, he finally arrived at Rapunzel's room. Just as Jin was about to open the door, he suddenly heard a whimper inside. Sniff. From the sound of it, Rapunzel seems to be crying in a pillow inside. Is she crying because of me? I feel touched and disturbed. I can't believe I just made such a girl cry. Jin shook his head in disappointment, not to anyone but to himself. If my father heard what happened here, he would definitely give me a spanking. Jin said to himself as he remembered his father's words. Son, remember this. Learn to respect women, not just any woman but those who you think deserve it. So, avoid loving someone who only loves you for something you physically have. His father whispered to him as he was forced to sleep on the couch because of having a slight fight with his mother. Pushing his hand forward, Jin slowly twisted the doorknob before opening the door. As soon as the door was wide open, he saw Rapunzel lying face flat on her bed while tear stains were on the pillow. Geez, I'm feeling a bit bad now. Jin sighed and approached Rapunzel. Obviously, he wouldn't touch her as it might shock her greatly, so he just coughed slightly to get her attention. Ahem. Who is it? Quickly, Rapunzel turned around and pointed her frying pan towards where she heard his voice. Wait the fuck up. How did that frying pan get here and where the fuck did it come from? Jin's face twitched as he didn't expect the frying pan to be still in the hands of Rapunzel. Jin? What are you doing in my room? Seeing that it was Jin, Rapunzel panicked and immediately wiped off the tear on her face and fixed herself properly. Jin didn't mind this and patiently waited for her before she was ready. After she was done, only then did he answer. I was just here to talk to you about something. Jin said as he sat on the edge of the bed while Rapunzel just stayed sitting on the bed as she listened to his words. Tigress told me that you have feelings for me. As soon as Jin revealed these words, she quickly blushed and refuted his words. What? And no, I don't. How did Tigress know that? Rapunzel blushed historically. Seriously, are you really refuting or giving me the answer? Jin couldn't help but complain in his mind as Rapunzel's panicking caused her to actually confirm what he said without actually meaning to. Look, you don't have to deny it. Tigress knows it very well. Do you know what she told me about it? After giving out a question, Rapunzel raised her head and stared at his eyes, as if she truly wanted to know Tigress's reaction. Jin then proceeded to tell her about what Tigress told him and what she thinks about this. Rapunzel was speechless, though a bit overjoyed inside as she finally had a chance. Naturally, I don't want to have multiple girls at once, but for the sake of my little kitty, I am willing to put my dignity aside in order to make her happy, and you too. So, I'll be asking you this, Rapunzel. Jin then took a deep breath and said warmly. Would you be willing to be my lover despite being already married to someone? Jin finally asked for permission.